My uncle took away my first time. The first time was reserved for the male god, but because of the scheme of my sister and father, the hotel mess was given to a stranger. Who knew that the man that night was actually? Chapter 1, Waking up to the loss of what is most precious. Her whole body ached terribly. Still groggy, Kui Xiaoli suddenly opened her eyes. Ignoring the pain coursing through her body, she abruptly sat up. The silky thin quilt draped over her slid down along her curves. She saw unfamiliar marks on her body. As if realizing something, her hands trembled as she lifted the high-end hotel blanket. With a swish, the luxurious bed beneath her revealed a vivid crimson stain at its center, striking, glaring, and so piercing that her eyes stung with pain. Memories from the previous night surged in her mind of a man hovering over her. But, who was he? She couldn't recall his face at all, only a pair of sharp, terrifying black eyes, dark and menacing. Then she blacked out, and everything after was lost to her. Instinctively, Kui Xiaoli's beautiful fox-like eyes scanned the entire bedroom. There was no sign of the man. The bathroom door was wide open, indicating that he was gone. She let out a small breath of relief, but the next moment, a stabbing pain twisted in her heart. She was only 20, and her first time was gone. That was meant for her beloved god, Wu Chenyan. But now, she had lost everything. How was she supposed to face him? Worse still, she didn't even know who the man last night was. No, perhaps she did. A cold glint flashed through her eyes as she spat out 3 words, Kui Yushan. It had to be her. Kui Xiaoli glanced at the shredded remains of her clothes on the floor, her eyes darkening. To make Kui Yushan stand out in her delicate beauty, Kui Xiaoli had dressed simply the day before, a white shirt and blue jeans. Now, scattered buttons and torn fabric littered the floor. Even her jeans had been ripped apart, a testament to the sheer force used on them. There was no need to mention what happened to the garments underneath. Thankfully, her phone was still intact. Otherwise, she would have had to leave the hotel practically naked. Soon, Xue Jingjing arrived with clothes. Seeing Kui Xiaoli wrapped in a quilt as she opened the door, Xue Jingjing was momentarily stunned. Her large eyes widened in shock. When she caught sight of the mess inside and the red and purple marks on Kui Xiaoli's fair skin, she gasped, covering her mouth. After Kui Xiaoli changed, Xue Jingjing gently took her hand, worry evident in her voice. Xiaoli, what happened? Weren't you with your sister for her blind date last night? Kui Xiaoli was no longer her usual lively self. She leaned against Xue Jingjing, her voice trembling despite her forced composure. Jingjing, what do I do? The gift I saved for Wu Chenyan is gone. My most precious thing is gone. Will he still want me? Xue Jingjing rarely saw Kui Xiaoli this vulnerable. Apart from Wu Chenyan, almost nothing could shake her this much. Wu Chenyan, 27 years old, was an architectural designer and the CEO of Feiyan, a renowned construction company. He had an aloof and cold temperament. To Kui Xiaoli, he was the ultimate idol, the one she had admired since childhood. She even chose to study civil engineering at a university, simply because he had attended the same school. But idols were idols, always standing high above, unreachable. Kui Xiaoli barely had any opportunities to even speak to him. Xue Jingjing hesitated, uncertain of what to say. She had always found Wu Chenyan to be dangerous, an untouchable man who could only be admired from afar. She gently stroked Kui Xiaoli's hair, trying to comfort her. Xiaoli, I will never forgive Kui Yushan. Kui Xiaoli suddenly lifted her head, cutting her off. Her narrow, striking eyes burned with cold fury. With Xue Jingjing's company, Kui Xiaoli ate a large meal. Only when her stomach was filled to the brim did she feel slightly better and return home. Kui Xianguo owned a moderately successful real estate company, Huaxian Real Estate. As a result, the Kui family was well off and lived in a villa. As she ascended the spiral staircase to the 3rd floor, she immediately spotted Kui Yushan standing in the hallway, dressed in an elegant blue-pink dress. Kui Xiaoli expressionlessly brushed past her and reached for her door. Just as she was about to enter, Kui Yushan stepped forward, blocking her way. A soft smile adorned Kui Yushan's lips, but her words dripped with mockery. Sister, you've grown so bold, staying out all night. I truly admire you. You know exactly why I didn't come home last night, don't you, Kui Yushan? Kui Xiaoli turned her head, a chilling light flashing in her eyes. Kui Yushan was momentarily stunned. She had expected Kui Xiaoli to endure as usual. To her surprise, Kui Xiaoli was confronting her directly. But Kui Yushan quickly recovered, her smile sweet as ever. Sister, how can you blame me? If you must blame someone, blame our father for loving me too much. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been you last night. Sister, this is fate. Yes, this involved Kui Xiangua as well. Kui Yushan's blind date had nothing to do with Kui Xiaoli. Yet, Kui Xiangua insisted she accompany her sister. She ended up being forced to drink. By the time she realized something was wrong, it was already too late. Had Kui Xiangua sold his own daughter? There wasn't much sadness in Kui Xiaoli's heart. She had long seen through her father's nature. He valued profit above all else. Selling his daughter was something she had anticipated, just not so soon, and not in such a devastating way. Closing her eyes briefly, she reopened them and slowly asked, "Who was the man last night?" "Oh, that?" Kui Yushan's tone was light, her gaze flickering with an eerie amusement. She smiled and said, "Sister, you really lucked out. That man he is a hua." Kui Xiaoli's eyes widened instantly, her heart skipping a beat. Not in joy, nor in fear, just a sudden, chaotic rhythm. Panic surged within her. Kui Yushan continued, "He is Hua Chenyan's older brother, Hua Ilia, the head of the Hua family." Kui Xiaoli's beautiful, fair face turned deathly pale. Hua Ilia, how could it be him? How was she supposed to face Hua Chenyan now? Seeing every shift in Kui Xiaoli's expression, Kui Yushan's smirk deepened, her eyes laced with mockery. "Sister, you really did win the jackpot. Hua Ilia is amazing. His status and power are more than enough for you. If you pleased him last night, he might even keep you around. If you become his favorite, our family's financial troubles will be solved. It's a win-win, isn't it?" Kui Yushan's delight was evident. It wasn't just a win-win, it was a triple victory. Kui Xiaoli had been ruined by Hua Ilia, eliminating her as a threat. With her out of the way, Hua Chenyan was as good as hers. Kui Yushan laughed, her voice brimming with amusement. "Sister, you really hit the jackpot. I envy you so much. You're amazing. Sister, you're so..." Smack! A sharp slap landed squarely on Kui Yushan's beautiful face, cutting off her words. Chapter 2, asking her to serve him well. Looking at her, Kui Xiaoli's eyes were cold and harsh, and with an expression of disgust, she said, "Kui Yushan, let me tell you, from now on, don't ever call me sister with that disgusting look on your face. I don't have a sister like you. When I hear you call me sister, all I feel is disgust." Kui Yushan, however, covered her face and took several steps back, as though she had been slapped, immediately adopting a hurt expression, tears welling up. "Sister, why did you hit me? You didn't come home last night. I was just asking, is it wrong for a sister to care about her older sister? I know, you were brought back by dad when you were 10, and you've gotten used to living freely in the countryside, so you look down on my personality, but you still shouldn't hit me." Kui Xiaoli couldn't help but raise the corner of her mouth in amusement, watching the speed at which Kui Yushan changed her expression. She certainly knew why Kui Yushan was acting like this. When she turned around, sure enough, Kui Xiangua and Luo Zerong were there. Luo Zerong suddenly stepped forward and shoved Kui Xiaoli hard, then gently touched Kui Yushan's face, her eyes filled with concern. "Oh, Xiangua, look, Yushan's face is all red from the slap. See the 5 finger marks, it pains me to look at it. I don't know if it'll leave a scar. Our Yushan has never suffered, but she shouldn't be treated like this. In a few days it'll be her birthday, how is she going to face people? Will she ever get married after this?" Because of what happened last night, Kui Xiaoli's legs were already weak, and Luo Zerong's shove almost made her fall if it hadn't been for the wall behind her. Was Kui Yushan going to be disfigured from one slap? Would she never get married? What about Kui Xiaoli, who was already scarred? Could she ever get married again? To the person she wanted to marry? Kui Xiangua, nearing 50, still looked well maintained, appearing dignified, though his expression was complicated. He didn't defend the mother-daughter pair as he usually did. He glanced at Luo Zerong. "Xiaoli hitting her sister was wrong, and you pushing Xiaoli is also wrong. Let us consider it even and forget about this matter." "Xiangua, how can you?" Luo Zerong looked at him with pleading eyes, about to say something. Kui Xiangua snapped, "Enough, stop making a scene. What kind of behavior is this?" He then turned to look at Kui Xiaoli. "Come with me to the study." Kui Xiaoli lay wearily on the bed, her mind replaying the conversation and expressions from the study. Xiaoli, tell me quickly, did Hua Ilia say anything last night? Like, investing in Huaxian. Kui Xianguo was rubbing his hands with a smile, his expression somewhat obsequious. At that moment, he looked less dignified and more like a sycophant. She had stayed out all night, and her father's concern wasn't he for her, but for his company. Kui Xiaoli shook her head. She didn't remember, not even his appearance. Kui Xianguo's voice grew tense. Did Hua Ilia say when he'll contact you again? Hua Ilia contacting her? Kui Xiaoli realized that deep down, she still longed for that faint semblance of paternal love, otherwise, why would her heart suddenly ache like this? Her lips curled in self-mockery, she laughed faintly, then continued shaking her head. Did Hua Ilia give you his phone number? Kui Xiaoli shook her head again. Kui Xianguo's smile faded, his face grew stern as he looked at her. Xiaoli, didn't you serve him well last night? It was just like father and daughter. Kui Yushan had said that if she served Hua Ilia well, the family's company's funds would be secured. Now, Kui Xianguo was asking the same thing. Was this something a father should say to his daughter? Suppressing the suffocating sadness, Kui Xiaoli curled her lips and smiled. Dad, I think I served him well. Really? My legs still hurt when I walk. She was smiling, but when her father's sharp eyes met hers, Kui Xiaoli suddenly felt a bit guilty. Still, he said, next week is your sister's birthday, I'll invite Hua Ilia over, and you can ask him for me. Remember, be enthusiastic. Enthusiastic? How enthusiastic should she be? In bed. Lying in bed, Kui Xiaoli barely pulled her lips into a smile and stared blankly at the ceiling, a tear slipping from the corner of her eye. Kui Xiaoli wasn't a fool to be bullied. She had learned to endure when Kui Yushan and her mother had once framed and beaten her. She rarely clashed head-on with them. As she grew older, she tried to avoid going home to prevent trouble, which also meant that Kui Yushan and her mother didn't have the chance to cause trouble for her. She had been staying in the dormitory at university, and this time, she came back because of the summer break. She hadn't expected to be schemed against so quickly. They wanted her to obediently cooperate with them on Kui Yushan's birthday and please Hua Ilia? Not a chance. But some things couldn't be avoided just by wanting to escape. It was clear what Kui Yushan and her mother had told Kui Xianguo, but when Kui Xiaoli woke up the next morning, she found herself locked in the house, with her phone missing. Kui Yushan, Luo Zerong, how could you be so ruthless? The next few days, all her meals were brought by the servants, until the day of Kui Yushan's birthday. Kui Yushan walked in holding a light purple dress, her gentle and beautiful face adorned with a bright smile. She sweetly said, Sister, even though it's my birthday today, Dad and Mom still bought you a dress. Look, isn't it pretty? Hurry up and change into it. Her voice was so natural and sweet that anyone who didn't know better would think that Kui Yushan and Kui Xiaoli had a deep sisterly bond. With her messy hair, Kui Xiaoli lay carelessly on the bed, flipping through a book without even raising her eyelids. Kui Yushan wasn't angry. She smiled and continued, Sister, Hua Ilia will be coming today too. Don't you want to get up and get ready? Otherwise, he might dislike you. What did Kui Yushan think Hua Ilia was to Kui Xiaoli? Just after one night Kui Xiaoli felt disgusted, flipping a page of her book as though she hadn't heard anything. Suddenly, her book was snatched away by Kui Yushan. Kui Xiaoli immediately looked up at her, her tone cold. If you don't want to ruin your face today, give me my book now. Just because she ignored her didn't mean she could be bullied. Kui Yushan wasn't scared at all, laughing as she said, Sister, the book won't run away. But men, they have long legs and can run. Kui Xiaoli suddenly sat up straight, her eyes sharp as she stared at her. Did you forget the slap I gave you last time? I can remind you right now. For a moment, Kui Yushan was scared by the change in Kui Xiaoli. It seemed like ever since that night she didn't come home, Kui Xiaoli had changed. After a brief pause, she smiled and said, Sister, you don't have to change or get ready, but I won't be able to stop myself from talking. Then, a name came out of her insincere mouth, Hua Chenyang. Chapter 3, Today, you should satisfy me. I heard that Hua Chenyang is coming tonight too. Sis, what do you think he'll think if he finds out about what happened between you and his brother, Hua Ilia, that night? She then knocked her forehead in frustration. Look at me, I almost forgot. Hua Chenyang is naturally indifferent, How could he care about the private lives of people like us? At most, he'll just sigh about Hua Ilia's infidelity. So, no matter what I say to Hua Chenyang, he wouldn't care. Well, sis, I'll head down now. Stop. With a pale face, Kui Xiaoli coldly called to Kui Yushan, picking up the light purple dress on the bed. When Kui Xiaoli put it on, she realized the dress had very little fabric, its length above the knee, exposing a large part of her back, almost reaching her waist. The front wasn't as revealing, but still, it exposed what needed to be. Paired with her stunning face and narrow, fox-like eyes, it seemed like she was trying to show off that she was going out to hook up with men. In comparison, Kui Yushan looked much more innocent. She had applied light makeup and wore a pale green long dress, looking fresh and gentle, with a graceful and ladylike smile. She was the saintly heroine of a romance novel, while Kui Xiaoli was the malicious supporting character. As the Kui sisters made their entrance, they naturally attracted the attention of a large crowd, both men and women. When Kui Xuanguo saw Kui Xiaoli coming down, he breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed Yushan was the one with the solution. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of a tall, jade-like figure entering from the doorway. The iron-grey custom-made suit only enhanced the man's charm. Kui Xuanguo quickly gestured to Kui Xiaoli, signaling her to come over. Kui Xiaoli stood still, but Kui Yushan suddenly whispered something in her ear, prompting Kui Xiaoli to be pulled along as they walked toward him. Hua Ilia had an enchanting face, his lips curved into a charming, rogue smile, especially those deep eyes that seemed to be flirting when they looked at you. He had the kind of face that attracted attention, no wonder he was such a playboy. With that kind of capital, how could he not be? Mr. Hua, you're here. Today is my little daughter's birthday, and with you here, the Kui family is truly honored. Kui Xuanguo smiled, fawning over him. Hua Ilia nodded with a high profile, but a flicker of disgust passed through his eyes, not showing on his face. It's Kui's birthday, of course, I had to come. He glanced casually at Kui Yushan and Kui Xiaoli, a hint of astonishment flashing in his eyes before he looked at Kui Xiaoli again. Which one of you is Miss Kui? Hadn't Xiaoli just been with Hua Ilia that night? Did he forget? Kui Xuanguo was stunned for a moment but still smiled and introduced, this is my eldest daughter, Kui Xiaoli, and this is my second daughter, Kui Yushan. Xiaoli, Yushan, don't you want to greet Mr. Hua? Kui Yushan smiled gracefully, hello, Mr. Hua, thank you for coming to my birthday party. In Kui Xiaoli's eyes, the way Kui Xuanguo spoke earlier was as if he were selling her. She said nothing, her beautiful face stiffened, and she didn't even look at Hua Ilia's tempting face. Kui Xuanguo was about to scold her when Hua Ilia suddenly raised his hand elegantly, signaling him to be silent, his gaze fully fixed on Kui Xiaoli. Hua Ilia curved his lips, Mr. Kui and Miss Kui aren't going to entertain the guests? Kui Xuanguo and Kui Yushan immediately understood and quickly left. Hua Ilia took a step towards Kui Xiaoli. Facing the imposing man, Kui Xiaoli instinctively took a step back. Interesting, Hua Ilia's eyes flickered, and he continued closing the distance. Mr. Hua is someone of high standing, so I suppose you wouldn't be interested in someone like me. When backed into a corner, Kui Xiaoli had no choice but to speak coldly, but there was a hint of fear in her eyes. That night was like a nightmare to her, she still remembered how rough the man on top of her was. As long as she's a beauty, I can be interested, Hua Ilia said with interest, watching Kui Xiaoli's pale face, then added, Miss Kui, you should satisfy me today, shouldn't you? As his words fell, his hand settled on Kui Xiaoli's waist. Kui Xiaoli stiffened. After all, she was still a student and had never been this close to a man, except for that night. Her cheeks flushed faintly, and she raised her hand to push him away. Mr. Hua, why bother? After you've tasted something once, the second time is tasteless. If you keep going, it'll just spoil your appetite. Hua Ilia's brows twitched slightly, and his smile faded. But he didn't let go. What does Miss Kui mean? What does it mean? What else could it mean? He took her virginity that night, and naturally, she didn't want him to take it again. Kui Xiaoli's face showed some irritation, but before she could snap at him, the music started playing. Miss Kui, will you dance with me? Without waiting for Kui Xiaoli's response, Hua Ilia took her by the hand and led her onto the dance floor. The dance was a mess. It wasn't that she couldn't dance, but the man was too close, practically whispering in her ear, speaking flirtatious and suggestive words. He was clearly a player in the romance game. Looking up and meeting his brown, narrow eyes, Kui Xiaoli suddenly felt a sense of confusion. Wasn't he at him that night? When that thought crossed her mind, she suddenly shuddered, shaking her head. Perhaps she had remembered it wrong, but the image of a pair of sharp, frightening black eyes still lingered in her mind. Did she really get it wrong? Then, she laughed at herself bitterly. No matter who it was, her first time wasn't given to him, it was given to another man, and as long as it wasn't Hu Chenyang, why was she still bothered by it? Finally, seizing the chance to escape to the bathroom, Kui Xiaoli hurriedly fled the dance floor, lifting her skirt and rushing towards the door. She didn't want to go back. With a loud thud, as she ran, Kui Xiaoli collided into a tall man. She looked up and met a pair of dark, indifferent eyes. There was an air of coldness around him. Kui Xiaoli's heart skipped a beat. If her face had turned pink out of awkwardness when Hua Ilia held her earlier, now it was red from shyness. Hua Chenyang. Kui Xiaoli barely whispered those 3 words when her hand was grabbed, and she was dragged outside. Kui Xiaoli froze. Wasn't this the distant and unapproachable Hua Chenyang? If it was him, they weren't familiar at all. Why was he holding her hand? His touch was burning hot. So, Hua Chenyang's hands weren't as cold as his demeanor. If it wasn't him, then who was the tall, slender figure she had just seen? Whose face had haunted her thoughts? Finally, after being shoved into a car, Kui Xiaoli snapped back to reality, her hands nervously wringing together, lowering her head like a shy girl, but secretly glancing at him. Hua Chenyang, why are you taking me out? Strip. Chapter for the man that night was him. Take off. An unmerciful word flowed out from those extremely thin lips like ice chips. Their voice was extremely clear, like a melodious song, but every word struck people's heart. Like an order, as soon as Hua Chenyang finished speaking, the car was started by the driver, and at the same time, the middle partition was raised. Take off? Did she hear it wrong? How could Hua Chenyang say such a thing to her? He was her idol. Although she was not familiar with him, Kui Xiaoli looked up at him in disbelief. Her face flushed, and then she asked stiffly, why? Hua Chenyang was also looking at her, his eyes were cold, which made his thin face look even more handsome. His voice was still cold, take it off. Don't make me say it a 3rd time. Under such circumstances, Kui Xiaoli was surprised to find that the 2 brothers Hua Chenyang and Hua Ilia did not look alike. Hua Ilia's face was charming and seductive, while Hua Chenyang's was cold and exquisite. Hua Chenyang. The blush on Kui Xiaoli's face began to fade, and she subconsciously grasped his sleeve. Although she knew that he was a serious person, she still asked, Hua Chenyang, are you kidding me? Hiss. This is the skirt she is wearing. Her body felt cold, and Kui Xiaoli hurriedly covered herself with her arms, looking at his indifferent face in surprise. There were many things I wanted to say, but I could only whisper 3 words, why? Hua Chenyang seemed to feel that this insult was not enough, take your hands away. Kui Xiaoli did not move. She just felt it was ridiculous. Although he was the idol in her heart, it did not mean that she could take off all her clothes in front of him calmly. Moreover, she was already a broken body. She was so dirty. She was not worthy of being in front of him. Take it away. Hua Chenyang raised his slender and beautiful fingers and pinched Kui Xiaoli's pointed chin. His dark eyes were very calm. I said, don't make me say it for the 3rd time. Kui Xiaoli closed her eyes tightly, and when she opened them again, she looked at him calmly, Hua Chenyang, give me a reason. If the reason is reasonable, I will take it off myself and show you everything. I hugged, kissed, and slept with you. Is this reason reasonable? Hua Chenyang raised the corner of his mouth and smiled. His smile was charming and graceful, but his dark eyes were cold. She always thought he wouldn't laugh, but he smiled at her, a smile so beautiful, yet so cruel. Suddenly, Kui Xiaoli's face turned paler than ever before, and her heart was trembling violently. Why is it you? Hua Chenyang, why is it you? She never dreamed that it was him who brought her nightmares that night. She had always thought it was his brother Hua Ilia. She had been worried for several nights because of this. She was even thinking that she would be a senior soon. Would she be accepted if she applied for Feiyan Architecture for internship? How would she face him after being accepted? Because? Hua Chenyang suddenly approached her and breathed coldly into her ear, I want you to be my lover. A lover, as the name suggests, is just a woman with whom you have a relationship in bed. I'm sorry, I don't want to be your. She couldn't say the word lover at the end. With her only self-esteem, Kui Shirley said coldly, I don't know how to do it either. You have to learn even if you don't know. Hu Chenyang said this forcefully, and the next second, she was already in his arms, his lips covering the fair and smooth skin on the side of her face, biting and licking gently. Hu Chenyang looked so strange. Kui Shirley was so scared that she avoided his hot lips and teeth. Hu Chenyang, don't do this. The man seemed not to hear her words and continued to kiss her. His well-dressed appearance only made her look more futile. After struggling in vain in his arms, Kui Shirley tried her best to suppress her trembling and asked, Why me? You want a lover, there are many women in this world. A sinister light flashed across his eyes, and the man's aura suddenly became fierce. His pair of sharp and terrifying black eyes were exactly the same as that night, and he suddenly pressed her down. Don't want. Kui Shirley suddenly screamed out of fear. Kui Shirley didn't know when she lost consciousness. When she woke up, she was already in an unfamiliar room. All the memories began to surge in her mind. No matter how much she begged last night, he had raped her. Holding his own shaking body, Kui Shirley even sobbed uncontrollably. No, that wasn't Hu Chenyang. That wasn't the man she had identified as her idol since she was 10 years old. Hu Chenyang wasn't that kind of person. How could the cold and indifferent Hu Chenyang treat her like this? She must be dreaming, but her body was aching so much that it told her very clearly, Kui Shirley, stop dreaming. Suddenly, the lights in the room came on. Kui Shirley looked up and immediately saw Hu Chenyang, who was wearing light grey home clothes, standing by the window. Under the light, his thin face looked very delicate, so delicate that it seemed a little strange. Why are you crying? Hu Chenyang walked towards her, and a cold and impatient voice sounded. Kui Shirley's face was covered with tear stains and her eyes were red. She gently shook her head and said, You don't understand. You don't understand what I have lost. You don't understand that I am not crying for myself, I am crying because I have lost my faith, and that faith was once you. You were the fireworks in my heart, giving me hope and helping me find the direction of the road. But from this moment on, he is no longer the same. The male god in my heart, Hu Chenyang, has disappeared. 10 years of faith, 10 years of male god, are gone overnight. How can I not cry? As Kui Shirley thought about it, a tear slid down from the corner of her eye again. Hu Chenyang had already walked in front of Kui Shirley, stretched out his slender fingers to wipe away the traces of tears, and said with contempt and coldness, Tears are the most useless things in this world. No matter how much you cry, you won't get anything in return. It will only make people think you are a pathetic and ridiculous wretch. Hearing this, a light flashed in the depths of Kui Shirley's eyes, and with a hint of expectation, she held his hand tightly. Kui Shirley asked anxiously, Hu Chenyang, do you still remember the little girl at the banquet 10 years ago? 10 years ago, Kui Shirley's skin was very dark because she ran around under the scorching sun all day long to help her grandmother with farm work. At the first party she attended after being taken home by Kui Shenghua, she was laughed at miserably because of her skin color. The children at the party all looked down on her. They even teamed up to play a prank on her, leaving her new dress covered with dirty wine stains and cake. Wiping her tears, she ran to the garden alone, where she met the most unreachable bright moon in her life and the noble and aloof Hu Chenyang in his youth. His eyes were cold at that time. He looked at her without disgust. He said, Tears are the most useless thing in the world. No matter how much you cry, you will only make others laugh. Chapter 5, Addicted to Her. At this moment, Hu Chenyang raised the corner of his mouth, outlining a cold arc. I don't even remember the women I slept with, do you think I would remember any little girl? With a cold sneer, he asked, Little girl, can I sleep with her? A trace of hurt flashed across Kui Shirley's eyes, but she did not give up and still held his hand. Hu Chenyang, look at my eyes. When he was a teenager, he wiped the tears from her dark face with his hands, and then said to her in a not-so-gentle voice, Don't cry. These eyes are beautiful, don't let your tears stain them. The pair of eyes in front of him were filled with tears, with naturally upturned eye corners, which were breathtakingly charming. They looked pitiful but also had a desperate stubbornness, which stung Hu Chenyang so much that he shook off her hand. At this time, he said coldly, What are you looking at? You want to seduce me and then have sex with you? I'm not interested now, I'll think about it later. Kui Shirley was thrown onto the big bed by the force. She lay there with her long hair covering her face. When she heard Hua Chenyan's words, her heart grew colder. The young man was gone, and she had nothing left, really nothing. I see. Kui Xiaoli said calmly that she had stopped crying. She knew that some jokes were enough to be seen only once. She raised her hand to wipe the traces on her face and sat up, hugging the quilt. For a moment, the room was eerily silent. Does it still hurt? Suddenly, Hua Chenyan's clear and sharp voice abruptly floated over. Kui Xiaoli was stunned, then she seemed to understand something, and a faint blush appeared on her cheeks. What did he mean? Kui Xiaoli didn't dare to look at him and whispered two words, "It still hurts." It's good that it still hurts. Hua Chenyan's voice was emotionless, but it carried a sinister and vicious aura. Stay away from people I hate in the future. Otherwise, I will make sure you can't get out of bed for a week. Kui Xiaoli was confused. Someone he hated. She raised her eyes to look at him. Are you talking about Hua Ilia? Hua Chenyang didn't say anything, turned around and walked towards the door, which was considered as his agreement. Behind him, Kui Xiaoli's courageous voice caught up with him. She asked the question for the second time, Hua Chenyang, why me? Why do you have to make me be your lover? I don't want to. His dark eyes narrowed fiercely, and his whole body was filled with a chill. Hua Chenyang did not stop and walked out of the room. Only. An image involuntarily emerged in my mind, a haggard and frail woman leaning against the bed, her hair already grey, but her eyes strangely bright and compelling, a kitchen knife tightly grasped in her terribly thin hands. At the same time, a sad and sorrowful voice floated in my ears, filled with endless hatred. Yang, after I die, you must find those people and avenge me, otherwise I will die with regrets. The next moment. Blood. Dazzling red. Now that he knew the truth, he naturally couldn't let those people go, including his enemy's children. Downstairs. Hua Chenyang sat on the sofa with his long legs crossed, one hand resting on the armrest of the sofa, and tapping lightly with his bony fingers. Tang Kun's voice came slowly from the side, Chen Yang, we have found out. That night, Kui Yushan got Kui Xiaoli drunk under the pretext of a blind date, just to send her to Hua Ilia's bed so that Hua Ilia could inject capital into Hua Xian, which was short of funds. Kui Shuang's honey trap of selling his daughter was a good one, but who would have thought that someone messed up that night and sent Kui Xiaoli to your room? Hua Chenyan's indifferent expression did not change. It may not be a mess. There are too many coincidences. Have you found out who did it? I didn't find anything, but you mean it's related to the videotape that was sent anonymously? Tang Kun immediately thought of something. She had received the videotape during the day and had just found out the information of those people. At night, the drunk Kui Xiaoli entered Chen Yang's room. It was really too much of a coincidence. When he heard about the videotape, Hua Chenyan's eyes suddenly turned cold, but he didn't say anything, and didn't make any comment. It's just Chen Yang, how could you do this to Kui Xiaoli in the hotel? What if you get into trouble? Ayun, I'm just playing along. Besides, she already owed me. However, what Hua Chenyang didn't say was that he drank too much that night, had sex after drinking, and then, it seemed like he was addicted. What's more, the woman Hua Ilia liked, all these points added together, Kui Xiaoli, he was determined to get her. Tang Kun suddenly revealed a wicked smile. He raised his hand and poked Hua Chenyang maliciously, Chenyang, this doesn't seem like you are not interested in women. Are you interested in this woman? Hua Chenyang slapped his hand away without blinking, and a cold sneer escaped from his throat, interest. I am quite interested in toys. Tang Yu suddenly looked up at the building, her eyes were filled with surprise, and there was a hint of amazement, is she really just a plaything? Then why did you bring her home? Hua Chenyang tilted his head and caught a glimpse of Kui Xiaoli standing upstairs. His dark eyes were instantly tinged with a brilliant color. She was standing upstairs wearing his white shirt. The shirt was too big, making her body look even more petite. Her two straight and long legs were bare. Her long, flowing black hair was draped over her shoulders obediently. Her pretty face was a little pale. She didn't wear any makeup, but it looked better than if she had worn heavy makeup, especially her narrow eyes, which made her look extremely charming and alluring. Roll. Hua Chenyang didn't even look at Tang Kun, and a word full of coldness came out of his lips. Tang Chi was not angry either. He stood up from the sofa and patted Hua Chenyang on the shoulder. He smiled and said, well, since your toy is here, I'll leave first. After Tang Chi left, Kui Xiaoli looked down at his bare feet and said, "You said I owed you something. What did I owe you that you treated me like this? Come over." Wu Chenyang seemed not to hear her words. His eyes were fixed on her. His thin lips opened slightly and he uttered 2 words softly. Kui Xiaoli continued to lower his head, standing still, resisting silently. It was still those 2 words, but Wu Chenyan's voice dropped a tone, "Come here." Kui Xiaoli raised her head and looked into his eyes. "Tell me the reason and I'll come over." Wu Chenyang did not speak, his dark eyes just locked onto hers, sharp and cold, with a bone-chilling aura. Their eyes met, and neither of them showed any intention of giving in. Wu Chenyang's patience seemed to have run out. He stood up, his tall and straight body very upright. Kui Xiaoli keenly sensed that the atmosphere was wrong and turned around and ran. Before she pushed open a door and entered a room, Wu Chenyang moved closer and pulled her into his arms. In an instant, a burning breath floated on her sensitive skin, itchy and unfamiliar. Chapter 6. You are not allowed to wear my clothes. Suddenly, Kui Xiaoli's whole body stiffened violently. Wu Chenyang lowered his eyes to look at her face, his slender fingers lingering at her collar. His voice was cold, and he breathed into her ear, "Who allowed you to wear my clothes?" Kui Xiaoli shrank her neck, trying to avoid his hand, and answered in a stiff voice, "I can't find my clothes. Even if we find it, it will only be tattered pieces of cloth." Wu Chenyang did not let her hide. His hands were still covering her warm skin, and his voice was filled with chill, "Then don't wear it." When he pinned her down, Kui Xiaoli pressed against his chest, her voice full of embarrassment, "Wu Chenyang, do you have to do this? Just a plaything? If not this, what else can it be?" Wu Chenyang said, with no mercy in his tone. Kui Xiaoli's already pale face became even paler now. His eyes were wide open, and he couldn't hide the embarrassment in them. There was also a hint of anger. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Wu Chenyang patted her face and glanced at her in confusion. "Plaything, didn't you hear how I positioned you just now?" As soon as he finished speaking, his cold lips were about to press against hers. Snap. There was the sound of a slap hitting Wu Chenyang's face. The slap deflected his face and broke his movements. Wu Chenyang looked at Kui Xiaoli in disbelief. Kui Xiaoli looked at her own hand in disbelief. She hit him. She hit Wu Chenyang, her male god Wu Chenyang, oh no, her former male god. Try again. Wu Chenyang was not angry. He just stared at her coldly with his dark eyes, and then bit her delicate skin hard. Snap. The first time is new, the second time is familiar. After the first slap, the rest will come naturally. Wu Chenyang didn't care. No matter how hard she hit him on the face, he would hit her back with the same force. He directly pressed her down. After the incident, Kui Xiaoli hugged her exhausted body and sat up. Her voice was a little hoarse because of the fight just now. She looked at the floor and asked, "When can I go back?" "Whatever." Wu Chenyang touched the bloodstain on his face, which was the mark left by sharp nails. He slowly tidied up his messy clothes, looked at Kui Xiaoli who was curled up on the side, spread his long legs, and strode out. Kui Xiaoli forced herself to stand up, staggering to get clothes from the closet. Wu Chenyang caught it from the corner of his eye, and said in a clear and cold voice, "You are not allowed to wear my clothes. I will tear them every time I wear them. I have no clothes." Kui Xiaoli raised his eyes and looked at the extremely unfamiliar straight figure, his eyes full of accusation, and said in a hoarse voice, "Then there's no need to go back." Wu Chenyang's tone was very indifferent, and he added meaningfully, "How can someone who's not even a lover be worthy of wearing clothes?" Kui Xiaoli suddenly raised her voice and said angrily, "Wu Chenyang, do you have to keep insulting me like this?" Wu Chenyang's steps paused, he turned around, and looked at her coldly, "You just realized that I let you be my lover just to humiliate you." Kui Xiaoli dug her fingertips into her palms to stop herself from venting. She heard her own voice asking, "Where's my phone?" "Throw it away." 2 clean and neat words. "I need to contact my family. I haven't been back for so long. They won't care about you." Wu Chenyang mercilessly exposed her scars. "Instead, they will wonder whether you have dealt with Wu Ilie and whether you have served him well." Kui Xiaoli closed her eyes. He insulted her, from body to heart, and kept insulting her, but he refused to tell her the reason. What did she owe him? Why should she endure it in silence? Kui Xiaoli asked angrily, "Wu Chenyang, what do you want me to do in order to let me go? Wu Chenyang paused, without looking back. When I get tired of you, you can leave. Okay, I'll be your lover. Kui Xiaoli answered him as if she had given it her all. Since she couldn't escape anyway, she could only choose to live with some dignity. It was better to have clothes to wear than to be naked. 24 hours a day, on call. After saying this coldly, Wu Chenyang's tall and straight figure disappeared at the door. Soon, a servant brought up the clothes, including inner clothes and shoes, and a new mobile phone. The villa was very big, and Kui Xiaoli walked around left and right before he got out of the villa. His first reaction was to call the police. She had already pressed 2 numbers, then withdrew her hand. It's useless. Although Wu Chenyang is the illegitimate son of the Wu family is very powerful. If she calls the police now, not only will the police not help her, they may also turn the tables and say that she raped Wu Chenyang instead of being raped. It's ridiculous to confuse right and wrong, but this is the reality. This is a truth she has realized in the past 10 years. Kui Xiaoli couldn't go home, because if she went home Kui Xiangguo would definitely ask. Just like Wu Chenyang said, although it was a bit cruel, he was telling the truth. Kui Xiangguo would definitely ask her if she had taken good care of Wu Yael after she stayed away from home all night. She didn't have a penny on her, so she could only call Xue Jingjing. Kui Xiaoli walked and waited, and soon Xue Jingjing came. The moment she leaned on her, Kui Xiaoli felt relieved, but then an endless sense of despair floated in her heart. Xue Jingjing helped Kui Xiaoli get into the taxi. Seeing that she looked really bad, she touched her face and asked worriedly, Xiaoli, what happened? Xinya Village district is far away from your home. Why did you come here? Also, it was your sister's birthday yesterday. I saw you dancing with Wu Ilia when I arrived at your house. Before I had time to talk to you, you disappeared. Then, she glanced at Kui Xiaoli's clothes. She was wearing a plaid shirt on top and a royal blue A-line skirt on the bottom. The design was very generous and suited Kui Xiaoli's figure very well, but you didn't wear this skirt yesterday, and I remember you didn't have a skirt in this color. It's too bright, you don't like it, how could you? Kui Xiaoli closed her eyes tiredly. Jingjing, I'll go to your house first, and then we can talk, okay? Passing by a pharmacy near Xue Jingjing's home, Kui Xiaoli asked to get off. Before going in, Kui Xiaoli said, Jingjing, can you lend me some money? Xue Jingjing handed the wallet from her bag to Kui Xiaoli and was about to follow her in. Kui Xiaoli suddenly said, Jingjing, don't come in. I'm afraid of embarrassing you. How did it embarrass her? Xue Jingjing was still a little confused standing outside the pharmacy. Kui Xiaoli had already come out. When she saw the medicine in Kui Xiaoli's hand, Xue Jingjing seemed to understand something and her throat felt blocked. Chapter 7, Knocked Down Wu Chenyang. Kui Xiaoli's expression was calm, but his eyes were dead. Let's go. Arriving at Xue Jingjing's house, seeing Kui Xiaoli taking the emergency pill, Xue Jingjing took Kui Xiaoli's hand and went into her room. Xiaoli, my parents are on a business trip and won't be home in the short term. So just say whatever you want to say, and vent if you want to. Kui Xiaoli smiled, but that smile was as bleak as it could be. Jingjing, can you lend me a set of clothes, if you don't mind me? Xue Jingjing felt sad when she saw that smile. She quickly took her clothes and looked at the marks on Kui Xiaoli's body, which were even more serious than last time, especially the rows of merciless teeth marks. Xue Jingjing, who was always good-tempered, was furious. Is this the same beast from last time? Wu Ilia, I'm going to kill him. He's worse than a beast. Kui Xiaoli held her back and shook her head. It's Wu Chenyang. Xue Jingjing looked at Kui Xiaoli in astonishment, her face full of disbelief. After a while, she managed to squeeze out a few words. Wu Chenyang? Are you talking about? Wu Chenyang, the president of Feiyan Construction. Kui Xiaoli nodded. Jingjing, we were all wrong. It was never Wu Ilia, it was Wu Chenyang. It was Wu Chenyang that night, and it has always been Wu Chenyang. Kui Xiaoli's smile was extremely bitter. Yesterday was Kui Yushan's birthday. Wu Chenyang held her hand, and she was still as shy as a little girl, following him timidly. Little did she know that in his eyes, she was just a fool who came to be humiliated by him. Why would Wu Chenyang do this? He is your idol. Not from now on. Kui Xiaoli put on her clothes silently, picked up the scissors on the table, and began to cut the clothes that did not belong to her. She seemed to be venting something, and her movements were extremely mechanical. Seeing Xue Jingjing beside him with a worried and complicated expression, Kui Xiaoli said, "Jingjing, let's drink, and I'll tell you slowly." Xue Jingjing brought up all the wine from her father's collection and accompanied Kui Xiaoli in drinking and chatting. After listening to Kui Xiaoli's narration, Xue Jingjing had a new understanding of Wu Chenyang, and her chest was filled with anger. Then, she asked worriedly, "Xiao Li, what are you going to do? Do you really want to be Wu Chenyang's lover?" Kui Xiaoli swallowed a big mouthful of the spicy wine and shook her head vigorously. "How is it possible? I, Kui Xiaoli, am not a self-abasement person. Why would Wu Chenyang ask me to be his lover? Dream on." Xue Jingjing was still a little worried. "You know the power of the Hu family, and you can tell from Wu Chenyang's style that he is a man of his word. He really wants to get you, Xiaoli, how can you hide from him?" A trace of despair flashed across Kui Xiaoli's beautiful eyes. She didn't cry, but her eyes were red. She took a sip of wine and said without hesitation, "Then let's fight to the death. I have nothing anyway." Xue Jingjing couldn't bear to continue talking, so she had to silently accompany Kui Xiaoli to drink. Later, Kui Xiaoli was completely drunk and finally burst into tears holding the bottle of wine. She cried unrestrainedly and without any image, like a homeless child. Then she pulled the corners of her mouth and laughed desperately. Her laugh was embarrassed and fragile. "Wu Chenyang is my idol, he is my idol. My biggest goal before was to marry Wu Chenyang, but now I hate him, I hate him." The drunk Kui Xiaoli kept repeating those 3 words, then forcefully opened her collar to show the unbearable mottled marks on it. "Look. Look, he raped me and even wanted me to be his lover, to insult me, and even said that I owed him. What do I owe him? I really don't know. He destroyed everything for me." Wu Chenyang destroyed Kui Xiaoli. "Xiao Li, don't do this." Xue Jingjing felt uncomfortable and her eyes turned red. She started to straighten her collar. Kui Xiaoli took the opportunity to grab Xue Jingjing's arm, murmuring non-stop, "Jingjing, Wu Chenyang is not my idol at all, he is a beast. I have been dreaming for the past 10 years, now the dream is over. Kui Xiaoli is dead, but I feel so uncomfortable here." She pressed hard on the left atrium of her chest. "It really hurts here, a piece of flesh has fallen off here, I know. Xue Jingjing looked at the extremely unfamiliar Kui Xiaoli in front of her, and couldn't help but think of the once cute and lively Kui Xiaoli. At that time, they were eating in the school cafeteria, and news about Wu Chenyang was being broadcast on TV. When Kui Xiaoli mentioned Wu Chenyang, her face was filled with joy and pride. Jingjing, did you hear that? Feiyan Construction is popular again. The difficult West City Commercial District has been built. Wu Chenyang is really amazing. He is worthy of being my idol." "So what? He is from the Wu family. If he wants to do something, others will naturally give the Wu family face. Jingjing, you don't know that Wu Chenyang is an illegitimate child. Because of this, many people look down on him. But Wu Chenyang is not an ordinary person. Although he is from the Wu family, he is not a second-generation rich man. He doesn't want the Wu family. He founded Feiyan Construction by himself when he was in college. He is really amazing. He relies entirely on himself." Speaking of this, the pretty girl blushed and was full of shyness. "Jingjing, I have thought about it. In the future, I must submit my resume to Feiyan Construction, then get close to him, and then step by step to win him over, and finally marry him, hee." Now Kui Xiaoli has finally fallen down with Chenyang, but Kui Xiaoli's heart and eyes are filled with she hates him. The next day, Kui Xiaoli returned to the school dormitory. She couldn't live in Xue Jingjing's house, so she wanted to go to the home of her grandmother, the only person who loved her. At the same time, she was afraid of bringing trouble to her grandmother. Maybe this was just a momentary impulse of Wu Chenyang, Kui Xiaoli thought. After sleeping in the dormitory for 2 days and 2 nights, Kui Xiaoli decided to go out for a walk on the 3rd day. She has never been a person who gives up easily. She can't give up her entire life just because of Wu Chenyang. After venting her anger, she wants to cheer up. She will be a senior soon, and what path she should take in the future is definitely not to submit her resume to Feiyan Construction, so where should she go? Just as he was thinking about it, he saw Kui Xuanguo's figure downstairs. When he saw Kui Xiaoli coming down, he put out the cigarette in his hand and walked over. Kui Xuanguo gave her a flattering smile. "Xiao Li, why don't you come home all the time? I can't get through on the phone, and Dad is so worried. So I came to the school to check on you. I didn't expect you to be in school." "That's great. If it weren't for the flattering look on his face, Kui Xiaoli would have believed that he was really worried about his daughter, but now she didn't care anymore. Kui Xiaoli smiled indifferently. Dad, what do you want to talk to me about? Chapter 8 He takes advantage of me. Xiaoli. Kui Xianghua sighed, his face looking rather bad. What happened between you and Hua Idia that day? Dad can't even get through to Hua Idia's assistant now. Seeing Kui Xiaoli still had that indifferent expression, Kui Xianghua continued, Xiaoli, you don't know, Dad's company is going to be finished, the capital deficit is too big. We finally made up for that gap, but we didn't expect that a new project had a problem with the construction materials. Dad invested all the funds in it. If this continues, Huashen will be finished. Kui Xiaoli was unmoved. So what? Kui Xianghua grabbed Kui Xiaoli's arm and said, Xiaoli, please help Dad. Go and ask Hua Idia for help. After all, since you two have slept together, Hua Idia will. Dad. Kui Xiaoli interrupted Kui Xianghua and pulled her arm away. Her fair and beautiful face was still smiling, but the smile did not spread to her eyes. She said in a calm voice, Dad, the person who slept with me was not Hua Idia, but Hua Chenyang. Why is it him? I clearly heard Yushan say that she sent you there that night. Kui Xian's face changed slightly, and then he stopped talking and continued to smile flatteringly. Hua Chenyang is also okay. Although Feiyan Construction is not as good as the entire Hua Group, giving some funds to Hua Xian is not a drop in the bucket for Feiyan. Xiaoli, considering that Dad has raised you for so many years, can you help Dad to ask Hua Chenyang for help? Dad. Kui Xiaoli's smile finally cracked. After several attempts of forbearance, she gritted her teeth and said with a smile, Dad, the reason why I still call you Dad is because of the grace of raising me for 10 years. Because a father who sells his daughter in this world is really not worthy of being a father. Hua Xian. I really can't do anything. If the person who slept with me was Hua Idia, I might still be able to do something, but Hua Chenyang, it's impossible, because he said he came to insult me, and said that I owed him. Dad, do you know what I owe him? I don't know. Xiaoli, you should be well in school. Dad will leave first. Kui Xianghua's eyes flashed suddenly, and he turned and walked away, with an air of fleeing in desperation. There was a little sourness in the corners of her eyes, and Kui Xiaoli sniffed. In the end, she didn't cry, but she was just upset. She had no idea what to do next, and just walked aimlessly around the school. After thinking about it, he took out the money that Xue Jingjing lent him, went to the mobile business hall, bought a cheap mobile phone, and applied for a new SIM card. Xiaoli. A warm and clear voice suddenly sounded. Kui Xiaoli turned around and saw Pei Xiao, the president of the student union. Pei Xiao was wearing a white sports suit, which made him look taller and longer-legged. He had a neat crew cut and a bright face, and he gave off a clean and clear vibe. Because Kui Xiaoli used to be a member of the student union, the two of them knew each other. President, why don't you go home during the holidays? The architectural exhibition hall in the center of the school was completed today. There will be a completion ceremony tomorrow, so I have to stay at school to work on it. By the way, it's summer vacation, why haven't you gone home yet? I don't know what to do. I'm going to be a senior soon, and I don't want to submit my resume to a construction company. Pei Xiao thought for a while and said, then take the postgraduate entrance examination first. Of course, this is just my idea, the choice is yours. Is the president going to take the postgraduate entrance examination? Well, graduate school is spent abroad for 3 years. Wow, studying abroad, that's awesome. Kui Xiaoli's eyes suddenly became bright, and her whole face glowed with dazzling brightness. Pei Xiao caught a glimpse of it and held his breath for a moment before coughing softly. By the way, are you going home tomorrow? Kui Xiaoli shook her head. She had no home to return to. Because it's summer vacation, all the students have gone home. We need etiquette ladies for tomorrow's completion ceremony. The student union is in need of pretty girls. Xiaoli, you can come and help. Before Kui Xiaoli could agree, Pei Xiao's phone rang. He took a look, hurried forward, turned back and waved at Kui Xiaoli, then it settled, Xiaoli. I'll have someone tell you the details when the time comes. I'm leaving now. In fact, Kui Xiaoli was in a trance the whole time. She didn't hear clearly what Pei Xiao said. Just like that, she spent the day in a daze. When she opened her eyes the next day, she remembered what Pei Xiao said yesterday. She was going to be a hostess at the completion ceremony of the school's architectural exhibition hall. However, this exhibition hall was funded and designed by Feiyan Construction. In other words, Wu Chenyang was very likely to come. Kui Xiaoli couldn't just sit there and wait for death, so he hurriedly got up, washed up, and ran downstairs with his bag on his back. Coincidentally, a round-faced schoolgirl at the door saw her and pulled her aside with a smile. "Senior, I'm the head of the etiquette department. The president asked me to take you to try on clothes. The completion ceremony will start in an hour. It is said that cheongsam is the most suitable clothing for Oriental women. It can not only show off their beautiful figure, but also their graceful and classical temperament." Kui Xiaoli, wearing a cheongsam, showed off her curves. She walked up with flowers in her hands and high heels on her feet. She looked graceful and charming, with the beauty of a lotus flower blooming with every step. Only Kui Xiaoli herself knew that she didn't want to do that, especially when she caught a glimpse of those unfathomable dark eyes glaring at her unscrupulously. She felt like she was walking towards him on thorns, and it was becoming increasingly difficult. The hand-tailored black suit is made of crisp fabric, which makes his straight and tall figure look even more handsome. The crystal-clear cufflinks on the cuffs have a sense of low-key luxury in the sun. Coupled with his cool and handsome face, he exudes an unquestionable sophistication from the inside out. Exquisite, Wu Chenyang has always been like this. The only flaw was that there was a faint mark on that exquisite and perfect face, as if it had been scratched by something. Kui Xiaoli forgot all about the official lines, and just handed the flowers to him and was about to leave. However, Wu Chenyang held her hand while taking the flowers, and then skillfully squeezed it twice. Caught off guard, Kui Xiaoli's legs went weak, she staggered and almost fell. Wu Chenyang raised his hand in time to hook her waist. Due to inertia, Kui Xiaoli fell into his warm and strong chest, and her nose was hit a little painfully. When she raised her eyes, she saw Wu Chenyang staring at her teasingly with his eyes lowered. Because they were too close, his warm masculine scent hit her face directly. She blushed when she felt him pinch her waist without hesitation. But soon, he withdrew his hand. The whole process lasted a very short time, so Wu Chenyang still appeared to be aloof and indifferent in front of everyone. Only she knew that he had taken advantage of her in public. Chapter 9, Dressed Very Tightly. After leaving the ribbon-cutting stage of the completion ceremony, Kui Xiaoli ran back to the dormitory to change clothes, regardless of her high heels, because Wu Chenyang had just whispered something to her. "Wait for me at the school gate." The tone is dangerous, with a hint of dark clouds pressing down on the city, threatening to destroy it, and a storm is about to come, filling the building with winds. When Kui Xiaoli thought of this sentence, she felt her heart tremble violently. She remembered that day Wu Chenyang said, 24 hours, available at your call, and the mobile phone that Wu Chenyang gave her. When she woke up drunk at Xue Jingjing's house that day, she found it soaked in a wine glass. At that time, she was still thinking, this is good, 24 hours, available at your call, all fucking hell. But now, she had no idea whether he had summoned her, and even if he had, she didn't want to go. As soon as she ran out of the school gate, 2 bodyguards in black clothes and black pants blocked her way. "Ms. Kui, it would be better for you to wait for the gentleman at the door." How could Kui Xiaoli not understand? It was obvious that Wu Chenyang came prepared and came specifically to capture her. She was not stupid, so she turned around and walked into the school. At this time, 2 people in black clothes and black pants stopped her. Kui Xiaoli was certain that she couldn't escape today. She closed her eyes and said, "Where is the car? Let me get in first." She didn't want to be a monkey attracting attention. As soon as Wu Chenyang got in the car, he saw Kui Xiaoli sitting upright in the back seat. He was not surprised and commented calmly, "You're pretty well behaved today." Kui Xiaoli didn't respond, but lowered his head and didn't look at him. At this time, Wu Chenyang stretched out a hand with clear joints towards Kui Xiaoli. Reflexively, Kui Xiaoli shrank back, trying to avoid the hand. However, there was not much space in the car, and soon she was caught in his arms and fell into his lap in an awkward position, their breaths meeting. Then, his other hand covered the delicate skin of her cheek, sliding slowly, and then gently stroking along her soft chin line. That strange touch. "Don't touch me." Kui Xiaoli shuddered and immediately pushed away his hands that were loosening on her body. She stared at his handsome face that was so close to her, her charming eyes filled with undisguised hatred. Wu Chenyang was not annoyed, as if he could not see the emotions in her eyes, and his gaze was still fixed on her. "To protect me, I'm wearing quite thick clothes. It was another comment without any emotion in it. The pair of inky eyes were still scanning Kui Xiaoli's tightly wrapped body up and down, with a frivolous and explicit look in his eyes. Even though Kui Xiaoli deliberately wore a long-sleeved shirt and jeans, under such an unscrupulous gaze, she felt like she was sitting in his arms with nothing on. Kui Xiaoli couldn't help shaking, and looked at him stubbornly. His lips opened and closed, but he still said the same words, "Hua Chenyang, please let me go." "Let you go?" Hua Chenyang sneered softly and glared at her with cold and contemptuous eyes. "Kui Xiaoli, you dare to play tricks on me, and you dare to let me let you go. Kui Xiaoli." It was the first time he called her name, and the sound was so clear and sweet, like the beautiful notes plucked from a guitar string, but Kui Xiaoli only felt a chill in her heart. Kui Xiaoli knew what he meant. She took a deep breath and looked him straight in the eyes. She said in a clear tone, "Hua Chenyang, I don't know why you insist on making me your lover. I don't know what I owe you, and you won't tell me. Well, today I can tell you clearly that I, Kui Xiaoli, will never be your lover. The reason I agreed that day was just a delaying tactic. I have been avoiding you for the past 3 days, so I stayed in school. If you, Hua Chenyang, want to force me today, then it's up to you." Hua Chenyang saw that the girl in his arms was looking up with a clean and pretty little face, her eyes flashing sharp light as she looked at him. Although she was held in his arms, she looked very imposing, especially her eyes with the corners of her eyes turned up sharply, which were too dazzling. He had no doubt that if he forced himself on her again, she would never say, "It's up to you," as she said. She might even scratch him hard, just like the scars on his face that had not yet fully healed. In the past few days, Tang Qin had been laughing at him for being scratched by a cat, but it was this inviolable little look that made him want to destroy all her shields. Hua Chenyang looked at her for a while without any unnecessary movements, and suddenly asked, "Did Kui Xianguo come to a university to see you today?" Although it was a question, the tone was extremely firm. Kui Xiaoli felt a chill down her spine. It turned out that he knew her every move, even though she turned a deaf ear to everything he said. "Want to help Kui Xianguo?" Hua Chenyang said slowly, not forgetting to stab her, "I can show him a way out. He doesn't need to sell his daughter to beg Hua Ilia for a way out." "What way out?" Kui Xiaoli asked subconsciously. "Be my lover and I will tell you." Kui Xiaoli stopped talking. After a while of silence, she curled the corners of her lips, looked at him, and said with a self-deprecating smile, "My dad wants to sell me to save Hua Xian. Do you think I will sell myself to help him? You can choose to say no." Hua Chenyang suddenly let go of Kui Xiaoli. As soon as he let go, Kui Xiaoli seized the opportunity and stepped back to the car door, staying away from him. Hua Chenyang was not angry either. He leaned his tall body relaxedly on the wide seat behind him, crossed his long legs, bent his slender and clean fingers and tapped them lightly on his legs. His posture was elegant and leisurely, and his eyes were only focused on the students coming and going at the gate of a university. Can she choose to say no? Is he going to let her go? Kui Xiaoli couldn't figure out what Hua Chenyang meant, and just stared at him warily with her beautiful eyes. Suddenly, his voice was still cold and his tone was quite nonchalant. Hua Chenyang said, "I remember you still have a grandmother." Kui Xiaoli's heart skipped a beat. "Hua Chenyang, what do you mean?" The driver, who had been sitting in the front driver's seat like a wooden man, suddenly handed a document to Kui Xiaoli in the back. Then, he spoke mechanically, "Ms. Kui, the town Ji where your grandmother lives has been acquired by our Feiyan, and is currently being demolished. However, Ms. Kui's grandmother has been refusing to move out, which has seriously affected the progress of the demolition. If this continues, we will use violence." Kui Xiaoli knew that her grandmother was a very stubborn person. When Kui Xianguo took her home, she held her grandmother's hand and asked her to go with her, but her grandmother was stubborn and said that Jitan was her roots, her grandfather was buried there, and she would live there forever. A while ago, Grandma also mentioned the demolition. At that time, she persuaded Grandma to move out, and Grandma was willing to do so, saying that those who were demolishing their house would not dare to do anything to an old woman like her. But now. Chapter 10, Selling at a Value. Kui Xiaoli looked through the documents in his hand and confirmed that they were correct. He looked up at Hua Chenyang, who was sitting upright beside him, in disbelief. He impulsively grabbed his collar and said with anger, "Hua Chenyang, you can't do this. Forced demolition of houses is illegal. Law." Hua Chenyang slowly retracted his gaze, tilted his head and glared at Kui Xiaoli's hand that was messing up his collar, his thin lips slightly opening and closing. Wu Chenyang, I'm the law. After I slept with you, you didn't dare to call the police. Isn't that the best proof? Kui Xiaoli's anger suddenly subsided a lot, and he put his hand down, but he was still upset. Wu Chenyang, what do you want? Do you really want to threaten me like this? Wu Chenyang raised the corner of his mouth and smiled. Kui Xiaoli, I was gentle with you at the beginning, but you didn't want it. Now don't blame me for adopting a policy of coercion. Even if she was drunk the first time, he raped her twice afterwards, but he said it was a way of coaxing her. There was a burning pain in her eyes. Kui Xiaoli looked at the man in front of her with a handsome smile and cold eyes. She felt that the man in front of her was not a human being, but a terrible devil. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, there was no more emotion. Kui Xiaoli said, okay, I'll be your lover. Wu Chenyang seemed still unsatisfied. Whose lover do you want to be? Kui Xiaoli squeezed out 3 words in humiliation. Wu Chenyang. Speak in full. Wu Chenyang's lover. A large hand suddenly grabbed her pointed chin, rubbing it with the fingertips. Wu Chenyang looked at her with cold and sarcastic eyes. Your subject and predicate have been eaten. As their breaths met, Kui Xiaoli spoke with difficulty. I want to be Wu Chenyang's lover. Who are you? Wu Chenyang asked again. Kui Xiaoli's eyes flashed with embarrassment, and she gritted her teeth. Kui Xiaoli wants to be Wu Chenyang's lover. So good. Wu Chenyang was finally satisfied. He exclaimed in praise, gently patted her pale little face, and then gestured towards the front seat. Another bag was handed over, containing a contract and a mobile phone. Kui Xiaoli opened the contract and saw 5 eye-catching black characters on it. Lover's agreement. Party B must live in Party A's house until Party A gets tired of him. Party B must clean, wash clothes and cook for Party A until Party A is satisfied. Party B must lie down obediently when Party A needs it and wait until Party A is satisfied. Party B must accompany Party A to all major dinners and banquets, 24 hours a day, on call. Every single item is for the benefit of Party A, and Party B is being exploited to no avail. Kui Xiaoli's anger, which she had just suppressed, suddenly rose up uncontrollably. She looked at Wu Chenyang with eyes almost blazing with fire. She protested, I won't sign. This is unfair. If I sign, I will be a slave, a servant, and a bed. She couldn't bring herself to say the last word, companion. In short, I have no human rights at all. I told you that you can choose to say no. Wu Chenyang once again cast his gaze out the window and stopped looking at her. His attitude was extremely superior, but a word escaped from his cold and thin lips. He instructed the driver, Arnold, call a Yun and tell her that I can't wait to start construction on the land in G-Town. I'll sign it. Kui Xiaoli's hands were shaking as she held the document. She added, the contract needs to have another clause. Party A will help inject capital into Party B's father's company. Since she's going to sell it, she might as well sell it at a good value. I'll have someone at this later. Wu Chenyang suddenly snatched the document from her hand and threw it aside. His hot hands suddenly grasped her shoulders and he glanced at her. His inky eyes were stained with a deep dark color, making his pupils seem even darker and more translucent. His hot breath sprayed all over her little face, and he said faintly, now, should I see your sincerity? Listening to the sound of the partition rising, Kui Xiaoli pushed against his chest in resistance. I haven't signed yet, it's not yours yet. Wu Chenyang's voice was stern, and a dangerous aura permeated the air. He said in a low voice, Kui Xiaoli, do you think I am a very patient person? Hearing this, Kui Xiaoli relaxed his hand on his chest. Seeing this, Wu Chenyang raised the corner of his mouth wickedly, touched her face, and breathed coldly into her ear. Be good, it would have been better if you lowered your attitude earlier. As soon as he finished speaking, his lips were intimate with her skin. Suddenly, the petite girl was overwhelmed by the man's strong and mature body. Looking desperately and resignedly at the distant blue sky and white clouds through the dark roof of the car, Kui Xiaoli knew that this time, she could never escape. Outside was the school where she was studying, and also the university where he had studied. Her classmates were passing by, including seniors and juniors, but they had no idea what was happening in the car. The man was finally satisfied. Kui Xiaoli forced herself to put on her wrinkled clothes that he had torn. Without looking at him, she asked with a trembling voice, can I go back to school now? What are you going back to school for? You're going to live with me from now on. Don't you understand the agreement? Kui Xiaoli still lowered her head. I'll go back and get my clothes. My lover will never lack for clothes. You are satisfied, aren't you? Kui Xiaoli suddenly raised her head and looked at him without blinking. She even curled the corners of her lips. Party B must lie down obediently when Party A needs it, until Party A is satisfied. That's what the agreement says. Wu Chenyang, you are satisfied, aren't you? He lowered his eyes and saw that although the eyes were red, there were no tears in them. There were also red bloodstains on the plump and delicate lips due to being bitten. For some reason, Wu Chenyang felt a little irritated in his heart. Immediately, the coldness in the depths of his eyes deepened, and he uttered 3 words in a cold voice, "Get out." As if she was waiting for him to say this, Kui Xiaoli immediately opened the car door with a snap and stepped out. However, her legs were so sore that she stumbled and had to hold onto the car door to avoid falling. Then, Kui Xiaoli let go of her hand without hesitation, stood firm, and walked forward without looking back. The next moment, a low-key black sedan whizzed past her, as fast as an arrow. Not long after, the car drove back and stopped beside Kui Xiaoli. The front door opened and the driver, Arnold, handed a bag to Kui Xiaoli. His well-defined face had a perfect smile. "Miss Kui, my husband asked me to pick you up tomorrow morning. You can pack your things today." After returning to the dormitory, Kui Xiaoli casually put the bag on the table, ignored it, and went straight into the bathroom. After taking a long shower, she came out exhausted, climbed onto the bed, and covered her body with a quilt. Kui Xiaoli knew that the scent he left on her had been washed away, and the traces he left on her would disappear with the passage of time, but she knew that some things were destined to be engraved in her soul and could never be washed away. Kui Xiaoli was awakened by the vibrating sound of her cell phone. Originally, the sound of a vibrating cell phone was very small and weak, but if the cell phone kept vibrating, it would be annoying. Kui Xiaoli opened his eyes, reached for the mobile phone on the bedside table, looked at the black screen, and lay down again. The vibrating sound rang again, and this time, Kui Xiaoli discovered that the sound came from the table below. It was summer vacation, and she was the only one in the dormitory. The noise was really annoying, and she felt uncomfortable all over, so she had to get off the bed and find the new phone in the bag from yesterday. Kui Xiaoli picked up the phone unhappily. "Who is it?" Chapter 11. Slap her back. "Have you packed your things? Arnold is already downstairs in your dormitory." The voice was a little cold and chilly, and it was clear and melodious. It was Wu Chenyang. Kui Xiaoli woke up all of a sudden. "Give me some time, I just woke up. I'm waiting for breakfast." After saying these few words, the person on the other end hung up the phone neatly. Kui Xiaoming understood Wu Chenyang's intention and asked her to make breakfast. She became even more reluctant and her movements became slower and slower. Finally, everything was packed up. Kui Xiaoli went downstairs carrying 2 boxes. From a distance, she saw Arnold's tall figure standing next to a black car. Just as he took a step towards that side, a gust of wind blew over from the side, making a snapping sound, and immediately, Kui Xiaoli felt a burning pain on the right side of his face. Before he could react, another slap came. Because Kui Xiaoli was holding a box in her hands, the 2 slaps really caught her off guard. She almost lost her balance and the box in her hands fell to the ground. "Kui Xiaoli, you shameless vixen. Tell me, when did you climb into Wu Chenyang's bed?" Kui Yushan's usually gentle and smiling face now looked a little hideous. The hypocritical smile on her face completely disappeared. She stared at Kui Xiaoli fiercely, as if she wanted to kill her. "If Dad hadn't come back and told me last night, I would still be foolishly deceived by you." Kui Xiaoli, don't you know how lowly you are? Do you think of Wu Chenyang? As expected, people who are born by their mothers but not raised by them deserve to be beaten." As he spoke angrily, he was about to slap Kui Yushan again, but a strong hand easily stopped her hand. Arnold said mechanically, "Miss, please respect yourself. Who are you? What does it have to do with you if I teach my sister a lesson for misbehaving?" After pulling her hand back a few times without success, Kui Yushan glanced at Arnold unhappily, then reacted and hurriedly showed her usual graceful smile. "You are Wu Chenyang's driver, don't get me wrong, my sister. Since this lady understands, then just stand still." Arnold's voice was still mechanical. He just smiled at Kui Xiaoli, who was covering her face and not moving. "Miss Kui, do you think it's okay to slap her back?" Kui Xiaoli was stunned for a moment, then a cold light flashed in his eyes. "I'll fan myself." Hearing what Arnold and Kui Xiaoli said, Kui Yushan suddenly panicked. Her hands were held by Arnold and she couldn't get free. Her face changed several times and finally became weak and pitiful. Sister, you can't hit me. It's okay if you want to hit me, but my parents will blame you if they know about it, sister. Snap snap. Kui Xiaoli slapped him twice, both times cleanly and neatly. The pain on his face made Kui Yushan look at Kui Xiaoli in disbelief. Kui Xiaoli, you dare to hit me. You dare to hit me, why can't I dare to hit you? Looking at Kui Yushan coldly, Kui Xiaoli said, Kui Yushan, these 2 slaps are to repay the 2 slaps you just gave me. Because? There was another pop sound. This time, Kui Xiaoli used all her strength. She even pulled up the corners of her mouth and raised the ends of her eyes. Kui Yushan, this slap is to repay you for saying, I was born by my mother but not raised by her. I think that although I don't have a mother, my upbringing is really good. At least you can't compare to me at all. After saying this with great vigor, Kui Xiaoli lifted the suitcase with difficulty and walked towards the car. Kui Yushan, who reacted later, strangely did not shout loudly. Instead, she looked at Arnold, smiling and crying, as if she cared about Kui Xiaoli. You see, she only knows how to bully me. I just told her not to dream about your president. How could a man as noble and arrogant as Wu Chenyang fall in love with her? Isn't she wishful thinking? In the end, she will definitely be the one who gets hurt. Arnold interrupted her, Miss Kui Yushan, right. I have eyes, I saw everything without you telling me. As for the matter between Mr. and Miss Kui Xiaoli, that is their business, and has nothing to do with Miss Kui Yushan. Miss Kui Yushan, it is best not to hit anyone casually in the future, especially those who hit Mr. My meaning is very clear, I know Miss Kui Yushan understands. Arnold finished his words mechanically, turned around and chased after Kui Xiaoli. He helped her carry the suitcase and put it in the trunk, then opened the car door for Kui Xiaoli, and finally got in the car himself and drove out. Looking at the black car speeding away, Kui Yushan's eyes and heart were filled with resentment. Wu Chenyang's person. Kui Xiaoli, are you worthy? Kui Xiaoli, you have nothing, why would Wu Chenyang fall in love with you? Why was it Wu Chenyang, not Wu Ilia, who was there that night? You must have used some kind of fox charm. Kui Xiaoli, just wait for me, Wu Chenyang belongs to me, Kui Yushan. I will never let you go just like that. Inside the car, Kui Xiaoli looked at the camphor trees flying by on both sides of the road and found that there were few people on campus. She felt somewhat relieved. She was relieved that it was still early and that Wu Chenyang had woken her up early in the morning, otherwise she would have been embarrassed in public. Only. After thinking about it, she realized that the reason Kui Yushan came to find her was because of Wu Chenyang. The root of everything she had to endure was because of him. What was there for her to be thankful for? Then, he looked back at Arnold's broad figure in front of him, and Kui Xiaoli felt grateful. Arnold, thank you for what happened just now. Arnold's calm voice came from the front, Miss Kui, you don't have to be polite. Miss Kui is Mr. S person, and Arnold is doing his job. Wu Chenyang. Kui Xiaoli pulled the corner of his lips slightly and said mockingly, it's enough that he doesn't insult me. Seeing others beat me, his abnormal mentality is satisfied. I'm afraid he will feel happy. Arnold's usually mechanical voice suddenly showed a hint of emotion. Ms. Kui, don't say that about Mr. There are reasons for everything he does, and he is a good man. Good people. Would good people push her to the edge? Kui Xiaoli felt only irony, and the good feelings she had just developed towards Arnold suddenly vanished, and her tone was filled with thorns. I didn't expect you to be so loyal. Arnold seemed not to hear Kui Xiaoli's sarcasm. I am Mr. S man, so I am naturally loyal to him. Kui Xiaoli felt that she couldn't communicate with him and closed her eyes tiredly. Kui Xiaoli felt complicated when she returned to the villa again. As soon as the suitcase was dragged in, a serious middle-aged woman came over and said expressionlessly, Miss Kui, I'm a servant here. You can call me Aunt Zhang. This is what the master should eat every morning, noon and evening. As she spoke, she handed Kui Xiaoli a list. For breakfast, Mr. usually only eats Chinese food, but sometimes he also eats Western food, so Western food must be prepared as well. What a waste! Kui Xiaoli murmured unconsciously as he looked at the long string. What did Miss Kui say? Nothing, just keep talking. If it's Chinese food, for soy milk, Miss Kui can go to the Yonghe soy milk in the east, just turn left after leaving the villa. For steamed buns, it has to be the Xinyuan breakfast shop in the south, it's clean and hygienic. For Western food. Jongmar said a lot of things in bits and pieces, and then she smiled, which was rare for her. Generally speaking, my husband is not picky about food, but the food must be exquisite. Finally, she retracted her smile, checked the time, and handed the money for breakfast to Kui Sheli. My husband is going for a run and will be back around 7 o'clock. That means, Miss Kui, you still have 45 minutes. Kui Sheli listened to this patiently, took the list and hurried out. As she ran, she was thinking, why should she do these things obediently? Her legs were still weak, and Wu Chenyang didn't give her a car or a driver. At 7 o'clock, Kui Sheli finally bought breakfast on time. As soon as he put it on the table in the restaurant, Wu Chenyang came in from the door. Probably because he was going to run, he was dressed very casually, in a white casual suit. Due to sweat, the suit was tightly attached to his body, outlining his perfect body proportions, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist, making him look even taller and longer-legged. His thick black hair was also messily draped over his forehead, covering his long eyebrows, leaving only a pair of dark and calm eyes exposed, making him look a lot younger and more handsome. After being stunned for half a second, Kui Sheli wiped the sweat from her forehead, then lowered her head and stopped talking. She felt that she had nothing to say to him. Wu Chenyang only glanced at her, turned around, and walked upstairs, but he did not forget to say coldly, "Come up." Chapter 12. No one else can get involved. Kui Sheli stood still, gritted her teeth, looked up at his tall back, and asked, "Why do you want me to go up there? I won't eat you." Without stopping, Wu Chenyang's cold and emotionless voice came. As if he had received a guarantee, Kui Sheli followed. As he walked towards the bathroom, Wu Chenyang told Kui Sheli in a calm voice, "Get me a set of clean clothes." "What are you going to wear?" "What kind of clothes do you think I wear to work?" "Oh." Kui Sheli asked while looking through his clothes in the closet, "What color shirt do you want? White? Light blue, or? And what about the tie? One with stripes." "Forget it, come in." Wu Chenyang interrupted Kui Sheli impatiently. Kui Sheli's body froze, and she had no intention of going into the bathroom. "I can wait for you to come out, and then help you pick out clothes." Wu Chenyang's tone was filled with displeasure. "Kui Sheli, do you want me to personally invite you in?" Kui Sheli took a deep breath and walked in step by step. Looking at Wu Chenyang, who was well dressed, she asked him with a respectful tone and a hint of vigilance in her eyes, "Is there anything I can do for you?" It was nothing serious, he just wanted her to come in and fill the bathtub with water, but she looked so nervous now, Wu Chenyang couldn't help but want to do something. The two thin lips gently opened and closed, and Wu Chenyang said calmly, "Help me take off my clothes." Kui Sheli blushed, "You have hands, you can take it off yourself." His dark eyes were tinged with a hint of coldness as Wu Chenyang suddenly approached Kui Sheli. His bony fingers gently lifted a strand of hair on her cheek and slowly wrapped it around her. His warm breath blew all over her face, and he said charmingly and frivolously, "I'll give you two choices. Either you help me take off my clothes, or I help you take them off." The last word, with its clear and sharp voice, had an unexpected lingering feeling. The temperature on his face seemed to get even higher. Kui Sheli had no choice but to slowly reach out her hands to take off Wu Chenyang's clothes. Because he was wearing a t-shirt and he was very tall, while she was only 1.65 meters tall, it was very difficult for her to take them off, and it took her half a day to finish. Looking at his pants in embarrassment, Kui Sheli stood there motionless. "Take them off yourself, I'm leaving." After saying that, she turned around to leave, but it was not that easy. The man grabbed her arm, pressed her against the bathroom wall, and leaned over to taste her fair skin. "Wu Chenyang, go take a shower quickly, otherwise the breakfast outside will get cold." Kui Sheli shivered and nervously pushed away his hot head, trying to prevent him from getting closer. Just now, he was stared at by those charming eyes. Morning is a time when one's blood boils easily, so he naturally had some charming thoughts. How could Wu Chenyang let her go? "I think you should take a shower too. You sweated when buying breakfast, didn't you?" "Wu Chenyang, we are running out of time." Kui Sheli tried to resist his lips and teeth, and kept making excuses. "Aren't you going to have breakfast? Don't you have to go to work?" Wu Chenyang's movements paused, he slowly raised his head and glanced at her. Just when Kui Sheli thought he was convinced by her, a hint of evil charm appeared in his ink-black eyes. His thin lips pressed against her ear, and he breathed softly, "It's just a quick fight, Kui Sheli, do you think I want to fight you for 300 rounds? Kui Xiaoli's face suddenly turned as red as a small tomato. She was no longer able to resist, and Wu Chenyang got what he wanted. The satisfied man sat at the dining table, eating his breakfast with great elegance. Looking at Kui Xiaoli, who was standing with some difficulty, Wu Chenyang was in a rare good mood and said kindly, "Come and sit down." Kui Xiaoli relaxed and was about to sit on the chair, but Wu Chenyan's voice sounded again, with a hint of coldness in it, "I asked you to come and sit." Kui Xiaoli looked at his place. There was no chair at all. Was he going to let her sit on the ground? Well, her legs were still weak, so she could just sit on the ground. It was better than standing. Kui Xiaoli sat down on the ground in an instant, and then looked at Wu Chenyang with his narrow eyes. Wu Chenyang was furious at being looked at. He meant for her to sit on his lap. Didn't she understand? Since she chose not to sit, then she should stand. Kui Xiaoli, stand up. Sometimes he asked her to sit, sometimes he asked her to stand. She's crazy. No matter how he complained in his heart, Kui Xiaoli stood up obediently on the surface. Were you beaten this morning? Wu Chenyang asked suddenly, his tone neither cold nor hot. Kui Xiaoli subconsciously touched her face and it still hurt. There were probably marks on her face. She didn't know how Wu Chenyang could have the guts to eat that face just now. Don't let anyone hit you in the future. Wu Chenyang's delicate face was expressionless. He glared at her face with red finger marks and ordered in a cold voice, "I'm the only one who can hit you. Remember that." "New." Kui Xiaoli replied subconsciously, and then came back to her senses. She suddenly raised her eyelids to look at him, her narrow and long fox eyes wide open. "There are clearly 7 words in it. You actually still hit women?" Wu Chenyang's dark eyes immediately turned cold, and he said in a cold voice, "You are my lover, Wu Chenyang. Of course, only I can insult you. No one else can dare to touch you." A trace of embarrassment flashed across his pupils, and his nails dug into his palms, causing him to feel a sharp pain, but Kui Xiaoli did not vent his anger. Wu Chenyang had already gone to work, but Kui Xiaoli was still standing there in a daze. She suddenly didn't know what to do. "Ms. Kui, please take this medicine and apply it. Your face looks a little swollen." Aunt Zhang walked over and said expressionlessly, "Thank you, Aunt Zhang." Kui Xiaoli took the medicine gratefully. "No need to thank me. My husband said that he needs you to accompany him to a dinner party tonight, and there must be no marks on your face. So that's how it is." She thought someone would care about her. How could she forget that this is Wu Chenyang's territory? Even if they care about her, they have a purpose. Kui Xiaoli laughed at herself in her heart. This medicine feels cool when applied and is not only painless but also works quickly. Kui Xiaoli looked in the mirror and found that the swelling on her face had subsided, leaving only a few red marks, which were invisible unless you looked carefully. At 5 o'clock in the evening, Arnold came to the villa to pick her up, brought a document with him, and handed her a black pen. "Ms. Kui, please sign it." Kui Xiaoli's heart sank. He opened the document and, with trembling hands, signed his name in the Party B column. She knew that she had sold herself to Wu Chenyang. At this moment, there is nothing more heart-dead than this. Chapter 13. I like this tune. Arnold drove the car to the downstairs of Feiyan building. Looking up from the bottom, he could see that the building in front of him was very modern and artistic, especially the golden fireworks logo on the rooftop glittering in the afterglow of the setting sun, which was quite imposing. Below the fireworks were 2 large Chinese characters written in a flamboyant style Feiyan, which looked extremely unrestrained and free. This is the place Kui Xiaoli always dreamed of, but it's not there now. After waiting for a while, a tall and slender man came out with long and straight legs. "Go to Ma Wuxian." Wu Chenyang leaned back in the back seat, not looking at Kui Xiaoli beside him, but closed his eyes slightly and gave the order. Ma Wuxian is neither big nor small, and it looks very stylish. There are many clothes in it, all styles that Kui Xiaoli has never seen before, including men's and women's clothes, but without exception, they are all very beautiful, novel and unique. A tall lady wearing a modified cheongsam came up with an elegant step and a beautiful smile. There was a hint of surprise in her tone. "Boss Wu, how come you have time to come here? Sun Yu, help her change her look." Wu Chenyang let Kui Xiaoli, who was standing behind him, move aside, walked to the sofa and sat down, then picked up a magazine and started reading. When Sun Yumai saw Kui Xiaoli in a white shirt and jeans, the smile in her eyes froze. "This is the first time you bring a woman here." No, a girl. This is the first time you bring a girl here. I'm in a hurry. Obviously, Wu Chenyang didn't want to talk more, and there was a hint of impatience in his voice. Sun Yu was not angry. She smiled, took Kui Shirley's hand and walked into the inner room. She closed the door, held Kui Shirley's chin with her hand and looked at her carefully, nodding, "You are a beauty, no wonder he likes you." Then she changed the subject, "Are you 18 years old? Are you following him so wholeheartedly? Youth only lasts for a few years, what will you do in the future? Determined?" She was obviously unwilling. Kui Shirley had no expression on her face. She gently shook off her hand and asked, "Can you hurry up? Oh, he still has a temper. It turns out he likes this tone." Sun Yu stood still looking at Kui Shirley, commenting with a smile, and holding Kui Shirley's face with his cold hands again, "But what's wrong with his face? There have always been many women who admire him, it can't be that they beat him." As he spoke, Sun Yu pressed hard on the finger marks left on Kui Shirley's face with his slender fingers. Even though the scars on her face were almost healed, Kui Shirley felt a trace of pain. She felt as if she was being cut inch by inch under her cold gaze. Kui Shirley slapped her hand away and said coldly, "You are also a woman who loves him. Why, do you want to hit me too?" Sun Yu suddenly started to giggle, laughing so hard that his body shook. After a while, he stopped and sighed, "The little girl is quite smart. But, I dare not touch his woman." When Kui Shirley came out, the red marks on her face had completely disappeared. Sun Yu gave her a light makeup, which fully brought out the best features of her face, making her eyes more charming and her face more three-dimensional and attractive. In addition, the rose-red off-shoulder knee-length skirt perfectly outlines her graceful figure, making her look incredibly beautiful. With her cool little face, she is just like a rose emitting a cool fragrance. When he suddenly saw Kui Shirley like this, Wu Chenyang had to admit that he was a little moved, but only a little moved. His dark eyes were very calm. After just a quick glance, Wu Chenyang put down the magazine in his hand, stood up, and walked out of Mo Wuxuan first. At Wancheng Club, Wu Chenyang put his arm around Kui Shirley's shoulders and pushed open the door of box 601. The man and woman who were sitting together and joking around suddenly stopped talking and stared at the man and woman who appeared at the door in amazement. Everyone in City A knew that the second young master of the wealthy Hu family was not interested in women, but now he came over with a pretty woman in his arms. Liu Zhongnian, the person in charge of the dinner, was a smart guy. He reacted quickly and came over with a smile on his face. "Second young master is finally here. Please take a seat. The eldest young master has been waiting for a long time." Kui Shirley felt very embarrassed when she saw that all the men inside had one or two women sitting around them. Then when she saw Wu Ilia was also inside, and he was surrounded by women, Kui Shirley felt more and more that he was no different from those women. Wu Chenyang was sitting right opposite Wu Yael, so Kui Shirley could only sit next to Wu Chenyang. Wu Chenyang's posture was very lazy, with one hand gently resting on the back of Kui Shirley's chair, and his body leaning towards her, as if he was holding her in his arms. Wu Ilia on the opposite side let go of the woman beside him as soon as Kui Shirley came in. He supported his chin with one hand, with a smile on the corner of his bright lips, and an unfathomable light flowing in his charming eyes. He stared at Kui Shirley straight with an extremely presumptuous look. Liu Zhongnian watched this strange situation from the side, feeling a little uneasy. He thought to himself, the eldest and the second young master were brothers on the surface, but everyone knew that they had always been at odds with each other. This time, the piece of land on the south slope in his hand happened to be favored by these two ancestors, and this dinner was also to discuss how to divide the land. Young master, what do you think? Should we eat first and then talk business, or should we talk while eating?" Seeing the dishes coming up, Liu Zhongnian breathed a sigh of relief and asked with a smile. "We'll eat and talk." Wu Chenyan's clear and sharp voice sounded slowly, revealing his usual calmness. Wu Ilia on the opposite side did not comment, still maintaining the same posture, and continued to look at Kui Shirley with interest. No matter how slow Kui Shirley was, he noticed that the atmosphere was not right and became more and more uneasy. Suddenly, Wu Chenyan's hand on the back of Kui Shirley's chair moved slightly, Kui Shirley's waist tightened, and the next second, she fell on Wu Chenyan's thighs. "Wu Chenyang, you?" Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Kui Shirley blushed and struggled, trying to get out of his arms, but the big hand around her waist was too tight. Wu Chenyang almost bit her ear to speak, his hot breath covering half of her face, just sit here, aren't your legs still weak? The voice was neither loud nor soft, but loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. Suddenly, the box was silent for half a second. Everyone had different expressions, but they all couldn't escape the word shock. Opposite Hua Ilia, a dark light flashed in those charming brown eyes, but the curve of his mouth did not disappear. Liu Zhongnian smiled again and adjusted the atmosphere. Young master, second young master, please try the dishes of Huang Cheng. The fish here is a specialty. After thinking for a while, he said, the main purpose of today's dinner is to talk about the land of Nanpo. I wonder what the young master and the second young master think of Nanpo. This time, Hua Chenyang did not say anything. Chapter 14. Be good, feed me. After getting Hua Ilia's permission, the person in charge of Hua's company spoke first. Regarding the land of Nanpo, we at Hua's company have made a complete plan. Let me briefly talk about it here. We at Hua's company plan to use the land of Nanpo to build a high-end villa area. After all, Nanpo has a large area and is located in the city center, with convenient transportation and a large number of high-income people. The person in charge of the Hua company was still talking, and Hua Chenyang was also talking while hugging Kui Sheli in his arms. I want to eat fish. He stared at her with burning eyes, and lifted Kui Sheli's pointed chin with his slender fingers, stroking it gently as if no one was around. Kui Sheli knew what he meant, but how could she pick up food for him in front of so many people? How was she different from those women who were posing and giggling? However, she felt a pain in her waist. He pinched her hard. Kui Sheli had to pick up a piece of fish with chopsticks and put it in his bowl. Hua Chenyang said nonchalantly, pick out the thorns. The person in charge of Hua's company paused and continued, this is the plan we carefully prepared. Mr. Liu can take a look at it first. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. We at Hua's company can answer them one by one. Feed me. Seeing that Kui Sheli had carefully removed the thorns, Hua Chenyang spoke up again and made a request, interrupting the person in charge of the Hua family. However, the person in charge quickly regained his composure and said, Boss Liu, if you choose Hua's, this piece of land on the south slope will. Hua Chenyang. Kui Sheli muttered 3 words softly, leaning against his chest awkwardly, her big eyes filled with reluctance. Staring intently at Kui Sheli, Hua Chenyang's slender fingers slid along her chin to her earlobe and pinched it gently, while moving closer to her, making her pretty face even hotter and redder. Be good, feed me. His usually clear and sharp voice was tainted with a hint of hoarseness. It must be said that Hua Chenyang's method of flirting with girls was really powerful. Not only did Kui Sheli in his arms soften and pick up the chopsticks to put the fish to his mouth, all the female animals in the private room felt a tingling sensation in their bodies. The men all looked over. Undoubtedly, the voice of the Hua company's head could no longer be heard. He found that with Hua Chenyang around, the plan they made was not attractive at all. As for Hua Yael, the smile on that devilish face became more and more dazzling, but the light flowing in his eyes became colder and colder, with a hint of anger flowing in them. Someone said Hua Chenyang was here to disrupt the party. He was just sitting there talking about love with his female companion and eating. He didn't say anything else. Someone said Hua Chenyang was here to disrupt the party. He was just eating. Why was he talking so loudly for everyone to hear? And why was he so low and charming? A trace of cold sweat broke out on Liu Zhongnian's forehead. He was certain that Hua Chenyang was going to confront Hua Ilia this time. For a moment, the atmosphere was eerily quiet. Hua Chenyang seemed to be unaware that he was the one who caused this atmosphere. He finally let go of Kui Sheli in his arms and twitched the corners of his mouth slightly. Why is it so quiet? Is Hua finished talking? It's Fei Yan's turn now. Everyone was stunned. Tang Kun stood up and continued calmly, we at Fei Yan think that the land on the south slope is not suitable for division into 2. Instead, it is suitable for developing and building an amusement park or entertainment city, because it is located in the city center, with well-developed transportation and high traffic volume. As for building high-end villas, it is a complete waste. After all, there are already quite a few villa areas in the city center. This idea is nothing new. The person in charge of Hua's company was not happy. Our villa is designed to be exquisite and high-end. It will definitely stand out among many villas. Kui Sheli had just gotten out of the heat created by Hua Chenyang, and now she saw the 2 sides talking and arguing fiercely. She didn't understand these business matters, and she just felt a little headache. He couldn't help but tug at Wu Chenyan's sleeve and whispered, "I want to go to the bathroom." Seeing that her face was very red, Wu Chenyang thought she was holding it back, so he let her go. After washing her face in the bathroom, it took a long time for the temperature to cool down. Kui Xiaoli looked at herself in the mirror and her face had returned to normal. She tried to pull up the corners of her mouth, but she found that the smile was too ugly. Today, Wu Chenyang made her completely shameless in front of everyone, and this was just the beginning. In the days to come, she would have to accompany him to more banquets and dinners. Not only would she have to get used to such a life, but she would also have to persist until he got tired of it. But when would he get tired of it? Not wanting to go out, Kui Xiaoli hesitated for a long time before coming out of the bathroom. As soon as he turned around, his way was blocked by a tall and slender figure. If that face with a strong aura of evil is not Wu Ilia, then who else could it be? Kui Xiaoli was stunned for a moment, thinking it was just an accident. She walked around him and continued walking forward. But his arm held him, and then the hand exerted force again, and Kui Xiaoli was pressed against the wall beside the corridor, and his chest pressed down with him. Sniffing the unfamiliar masculine scent on him, Kui Xiaoli pushed him hard and said in a cold voice, "Mr. Hua, please respect yourself." Self-respect. You caused me to lose a piece of land. Do you think I can still respect myself? The man held her chin with his fingers, a smile on the corner of his mouth, but that smile looked weird no matter how you looked at it. Kui Xiaoli, how do you think I should repay you? Kui Xiaoli felt that his nerves were a little stretched tonight, and he couldn't control himself and yelled, "Go find Wu Chenyang, it's not me who stole your land." She was still feeling aggrieved. Wu Chenyang had already embarrassed her enough tonight. "Oh, it's true that you didn't steal it, but you helped Wu Chenyang." An ambiguous laugh suddenly escaped from his throat. Wu Ilia's brown eyes locked onto Kui Xiaoli's face in an unfathomable way, and his voice was full of sarcasm. "Kui Xiaoli, didn't Kui Xianguo ask you to climb into my bed? How did you hook up with such a thing?" That night, she should have been his, and Kui Xianguo promised to give her to him, but she ended up following Wu Chenyang at some point. When he saw her and Wu Chenyang being so close tonight, he felt an unspeakable anger growing in his heart. Fire spread in his chest. With a smile on his face, Wu Ilia said, "You should know that it is better to be with me than with him. He has no sympathy for women at all. Do you think he brought you out today to show off his affection? He just used you as a cover to make trouble. In his eyes, you are no different from those hostesses in the box. Silly girl, you might as well follow me. I won't do this to you. How about you come back and follow me now? I don't dislike you." As he said that, Wu Ilia lowered his head and was about to kiss Kui Xiaoli's lips. With a snap, Kui Xiaoli pushed his face away, not letting him succeed. She looked at him with cold eyes, calling him by his name, and said in a cold tone, "Wu Ilia, it's Kui Xuanguo's business to sell me to you, and it's my business to sell myself to Wu Chenyang. Wu Chenyang embarrassed me today and I was willing to do so. None of this has anything to do with you. Please don't insult me with this, because I don't like you. You might as well spend this time communicating with the hostess in the box. Kui Xiaoli." He squeezed out 3 words from his lips. Wu Ilia narrowed his eyes slightly, exuding a dangerous aura, and tightened his grip. "You said you don't like me. Boss Wu, should you let go of your hand?" Before Kui Xiaoli could say anything, a clear voice suddenly came over. Chapter 15. Don't be like this. Kui Xiaoli looked in the direction of the voice and saw Wu Chenyang standing not far away. There was no expression on his delicate and thin face, and his dark eyes were calm, but there was a cold light in the depths of his pupils. "Chenyang, I like this woman of yours, and she is interested in me too. We are in love with each other, so just give her to me." Instead of letting Kui Xiaoli go, Wu Yao moved closer to her, his lips almost touching her face. He said with a smile, but his eyes were looking at Wu Chenyang, full of provocation. "Brother, since you like picking up my old shoes so much, I can give them to you." Wu Chenyang's indifferent face showed no emotion. He said lightly, "When I get tired of playing with them, I will definitely give them to you." Loose woman. Tired of playing? I will definitely give it to you. Every word was like a needle piercing Kui Xiaoli's heart. What did Wu Chenyang think of her? Kui Xiaoli gritted her teeth, lowered her eyes, hid the emotions in her eyes, and finally endured it. Saying he likes to pick up his broken shoes. Wu Ilia's demonic smile remained, but the cold light in his eyes became even brighter. He smiled and replied, "Okay, then I'll wait. After all, Xiaoli also has me in her heart." "Chen Yang, you are so stubborn. Isn't there a good saying, oh, a forced melon is not sweet?" After saying that, Hua Ilia let go of Kui Xiaoli and walked out along the corridor. When he passed by Hua Chenyang, he turned back with a smile and said to Kui Xiaoli from a distance, "Xiaoli baby, be good and bear with it. You must wait for me, because I am waiting for you too." The moment he turned around, Hua Yail's face became completely gloomy. What he couldn't get, no one else could get with peace of mind. "Baby Xiaoli. Kui Xiaoli is about to vomit, okay." The corner of his eye twitched. Kui Xiaoli stroked his forehead, then raised his eyes and saw Hua Chenyang not far away. He didn't know when his face became gloomy. Her heart skipped a beat and her intuition told her that he was angry. Hua Chenyang was seen walking towards her with his long straight legs. Kui Xiaoli couldn't help but want to step back, but there was a wall behind him and there was no way to retreat. Before Kui Xiaoli could figure out how to run, in just 3 or 2 steps, the man with a strong aura was already in front of her. His tall and slender body completely enveloped her. The beautiful and slender fingers suddenly raised up and grabbed Kui Xiaoli's delicate chin, and the fingertips with thin calluses slid there dangerously. He clearly didn't say anything, he just stared at her quietly with his dark and indifferent eyes, but she found it extremely horrifying. Because the distance was too close, Kui Xiaoli could not help but smell the masculine scent on his body. She pushed against his chest and called his name awkwardly, "Hua Chenyang." He lowered his head suddenly, and the force of his hands on Kui Xiaoli's skin also tightened. Hua Chenyang's thin lips were attached to her ear, and he whispered softly, "Are you turning a deaf ear to my words?" Although the breath beside her ear was warm, Kui Xiaoli felt a chill down her spine, especially the pain in her jaw. She frowned uncomfortably, not understanding what she had done wrong. "I told you to stay away from people I hate, why are you so disobedient?" A clear and sharp voice was whispering, and the dark eyes were very cold, revealing a gloomy and hostile aura. "Stay away from people I hate in the future, otherwise, I will make sure you can't get out of bed for a week." Thinking of what he said, Kui Xiaoli's eyes suddenly widened, and she looked at him with some fear, afraid that Hua Chenyang would really do that to her. Kui Xiaoli tried her best to defend herself. "I didn't, it was Hua Ilia who took the initiative to stop me, I didn't want to get close to him, it was him." Hua Chenyang seemed to be unable to hear Kui Xiaoli's words. He held her chin tightly with one hand, fixing her head so that she could not move. With his other big hand, he dangerously scratched the soft skin on her cheek, slowly sliding to her soft and beautiful red lips and gently swirling around them, ravaging her slowly and infuriatingly. "Tell me, where did you let him touch you, here, or here?" His hands seemed to be electrified. They seemed gentle, but in fact they were not gentle at all. The burning pain on her lips was unbearable. Kui Xiaoli dodged awkwardly, but her body was trapped by him and she couldn't dodge. Kui Xiaoli pushed his big hand away uncomfortably and said in a louder voice, "I said no, he didn't touch me." "No." A cold and ghostly sneer came out of her throat. Her handsome and thin face looked like the king of hell from hell. Hua Chenyang glared at her coldly. "Kui Xiaoli, do you think I'm blind?" Hua Chenyang, Before Kui Xiaoli finished speaking, she felt a warm, itchy and numb sensation on her earlobe. It was the touch of his lips and teeth. Kui Xiaoli resisted him in vain. Her beautiful eyes were filled with humiliation. She spoke with difficulty. "Hua Chenyang, don't do this. We are outside and others will see us." Hearing this, Hua Chenyang snorted coldly, raised his head to look at her, his eyes as cold as frost. "You will see it. And you let him touch it." Thinking of Hua Ilia's excessive actions towards her just now, as well as those imaginative words, Hua Chenyang did not stop his movements, and an uncontrollable anger surged from the bottom of his heart. He glanced at the beautiful and delicate neck in front of him and bit it hard. The force caused Kui Xiaoli's body to tremble slightly. But no matter how she retreated, she couldn't stop his attack. Just because of the intimacy that Hua Yail deliberately created, would Hua Chenyang treat her like this in public? Then how could she still have the face to live? Accompanying him to the dinner tonight was the limit of what she could do. Now she had to do it with him outside. Was she one of those hostesses in the club? No. She can't do it. Kui Xiaoli felt extremely embarrassed. She didn't know where she got the strength from, but she pushed his hot head away and looked at him angrily. "Hua Chenyang, that's enough. I've already agreed to what you want, you can't do this." Wu Chenyang looked at the angry girl in front of him, with her pretty and delicate little face tilted up, staring at him with her fox eyes, with the corners of her eyes turned up. It was obviously she who was disobedient, but she acted as if he had done something unjust. The corners of his thin, cold lips were slightly raised, outlining an evil and cold arc. It was clearly a smile, but it made people feel cold all over. As expected, Wu Chenyang said coldly, "Enough. How can it be enough if I don't let you get out of bed? Wu Chenyang, don't force me." Kui Xiao glared at him with unconcealed anger and resentment, as if he was determined to fight him to the death. Their hostility in his dark eyes grew stronger as Wu Chenyang spoke coldly beside her ear. "Force you? I have been forcing you all the time, don't you know? Don't forget, you signed the agreement." Chapter 16, Be afraid to be obedient. The last sentence was said in an unnaturally gentle tone, but the threat contained in the words was self-evident. Although Kui Xiaoli wanted to slap this handsome but cruel man in front of her several times, she endured it for a while, and thinking of her grandmother, she forced herself not to lose her temper. Finally, she begged him humbly, "Don't stay outside, go back, please." "How about going back?" Their hostility in Wu Chenyang's eyes subsided a little, his thin lips slightly opened, and he asked in a frivolous tone in her ear. Kui Xiaoli spoke with difficulty, "Go back, if you do this again." Wu Chenyang seemed not to understand what she said. His calm dark pupils locked onto her face. "What's going on?" Embarrassment appeared in his narrow eyes. Kui Xiaoli lowered his head and said without looking at him, "Let's do that again when we get back." "What kind of thing is that?" There was an evil look in the corners of his eyes and eyebrows, and Wu Chenyang seemed to be determined to get to the bottom of the matter. His nails dug deep into his palms. No matter how hard he tried to hold back, a faint pink flush appeared on his face. Kui Xiaoli took a deep breath and uttered two words, "Sleep." Suddenly, her pointed chin was lifted up by him, and she was forced to look at the thin and delicate face of the man in front of her. Their hot breath sprayed all over her face, and the color of his ink-black pupils deepened. Wu Chenyang suddenly raised the corners of his mouth, outlining a charming arc. His thin, pale lips gently opened and closed, and he said in a low, seductive voice, "Remember, it was you who took the initiative to invite me to sleep with you." After he finished speaking, Kui Xiaoli felt his body relax, then his wrist tightened, and he was dragged towards the elevator at the end of the corridor. He was tall and had long legs, and even though he walked at a leisurely pace, she had to follow him and jog all the way. Looking at the tall and straight man in front of her, Kui Xiaoli felt very nervous. When she thought of the sentence that she couldn't get out of bed for a week, she felt uneasy. What was even more embarrassing was sleeping with him, and she was the one who took the initiative to invite Wu Chenyang just now. After leaving the Huangcheng Club, Kui Xiaoli saw their black Rolls-Royce parked at the door, and Arnold opened the door at the right time. As soon as he got on the bus, Kui Xiaoli sat at the far end, feeling very uncomfortable. So much so that as soon as Wu Chenyang sat in the car, he could clearly see Rose, who was huddled in a small ball against the car window. Her eyes were apparently looking out the window and not looking at him at all, but in fact, she was watching his every move warily out of the corner of her eyes, as if she would scratch him if he made any movement. In fact, if another woman did this, Wu Chenyang might think that she was deliberately attracting his attention, but as for Kui Xiaoli, he just thought this woman was interesting. The more she was unwilling to do something, the more he wanted her to do it, even if she was unwilling. "Come over." Like the clear notes plucked from the strings of a guitar, Wu Chenyang gently uttered two words. Kui Xiaoli's body trembled violently, but she still didn't look at him. "Didn't we agree to go back and talk later? Come over." There was already a hint of coldness in his voice. Kui Xiaoming realized that he didn't like to say it for the third time, but he also knew he couldn't escape, so he had to turn around and slowly approach him. Wu Chenyang didn't give her any chance to dodge. He stretched out his long arm, grabbed her wrist, and pulled her into his arms. He held her slender waist with one hand and gently stroked her little face with the other. The warmth from his hands lingered on her body, and Kui Xiaoli froze and dared not move. "I haven't slept yet." The slender and beautiful fingers were still floating on her face. "Are you so afraid of me?" Nonsense. How could she not be afraid of him after he had done so many things to force her, but how should she answer this question? Her face turned red as Kui Xiaoli stared at his cold and handsome face, not daring to even blink, and was extremely defensive. As if not caring about her answer, Wu Chenyang glared at her with a dark look in his eyes, approached her ear, and let his breath diffuse over it. It's right to be afraid. Only when you are afraid can you be obedient. Abnormal. Although Kui Xiaoli was complaining in her heart, she didn't dare to show it on her face. After thinking for a while, she said, "Wu Chenyang, please let me go. This is very uncomfortable." Arnold was still driving in front, so he must have seen him and her like this, which was very indecent. Uncomfortable. Wu Chenyang didn't even raise his eyelids. His hot hand moved to her earlobe and pinched it gently. "What did I do to you? Make you uncomfortable?" Kui Xiaoli's ears suddenly turned red and hot. She dodged his hand and tried to push against his chest with both hands, stammering, "Wu Chenyang, please let go and go back." Not good. The two words of ruthlessness came out from those thin lips. Wu Chenyang almost bit her ear while speaking, "I can't wait to go back." Wu Chenyang's lips had already covered the skin on her neck, sliding slowly. Itchy, numb. With a bang, his mind became hot and he no longer cared about anything else. Kui Xiaoli began to struggle desperately. Just at this moment, the cell phone in Kui Xiaoli's bag rang. Kui Xiaoli felt relieved and said hurriedly, "Wu Chenyang, can you let me go and let me answer the phone?" The dark eyes glared at the pair of fox eyes flashing with relaxation in front of him. Wu Chenyang raised the corners of his mouth, outlining a shallow arc, and two words that were deliberately suppressed burst out from between his lips and teeth, "Take it." Kui Xiaoli wanted to answer the phone, but his lips and teeth were still moving, making her feel uncomfortable. She reached out to pick up the bag, but suddenly she felt a tingling sensation on her ear. It was the touch of his warm tongue that made Kui Xiaoli feel embarrassed and angry. She couldn't help but stare at him. "Wu Chenyang, how can I answer the phone if you are like this? I didn't tie your hands, so why can't you take it?" Wu Chenyang didn't care and just did his own thing, his pair of dark and clear eyes flashing with interest. Feeling embarrassed by that gaze and with the phone beside her still ringing, Kui Xiaoli gritted her teeth, suppressed the feeling, reached for her bag, took out the phone, and looking at the two big words jumping on it, she suddenly lost the courage to answer the call. Just as she was about to put the phone back, she suddenly felt a pain in her waist. He pinched her. Kui Xiaoli said angrily, "What are you doing?" As a result, when she raised her eyes, she found that, at some point, Wu Chenyang's cold and thin handsome face was tainted with a hint of coldness, and his dark eyes were filled with deep hostility. At this moment, he was staring at the phone in her hand with sharp eyes, his thin lips slightly opened, and he said coldly, "Answer it." Under his pressure, Kui Xiaoli had no choice but to press the connect button. As soon as the call was connected, a familiar middle-aged male voice came from the other end, "Xiaoli, it's so hard to get through to you. Dad has called you many times. Why did you answer now? Ting Yushan said that you moved out of the dormitory today. Do you know that you are a girl alone outside? Dad is very worried about you. Dad, just say whatever you want to say." Kui Xiaoli was too lazy to listen to Kui Xuanguo's hypocritical words, not to mention, there was Wu Chenyang who was eyeing her covetously beside her. Chapter 17 Come by yourself. Kui Xuanguo paused and asked in a complicated tone, "Xiaoli, are you in love with Wu Chenyang? Together? How can this be called together? She was forced by him." Kui Xiaoli subconsciously looked at Wu Chenyang, but unfortunately the man next to her had a blank expression on his face, and his dark eyes were deep and difficult to discern, making it impossible for her to see through his emotions. After thinking for a while, Kui Xiaoli said, "It was Kui Yushan who told you. Xiaoli, Yushan is doing this for your own good. After all, Wu Chenyang is not someone we can marry. It's not nice for you to hit her because of what Yushan said to you. After all, Yushan is your sister. We are family, so why would we hold grudges against each other?" Kui Xiaoli lowered his voice, "Dad, if you are here to speak for Kui Yushan, then I'm hanging up." Kui Xuanguo hurriedly called Kui Xiaoli, "Wait a minute. Xiaoli, in fact, putting aside your status and position, it is not a bad thing that you have a good relationship with Wu Chenyang. Although Wu Chenyang is not as good as Wu Ilia, if you are with him, Dad's Hu Xian will be saved. So, Xiaoli, can you have a good talk with Wu Chenyang, be humble, and then be more enthusiastic?" As expected, she knew that Kui Xuanguo didn't care about her at all, but Wu Chenyang was laughing at her. In fact, he was eager to see her laugh. Perhaps his abnormal psychology would get incomparable satisfaction from it. A bitter feeling passed through Kui Xiaoli's heart. She didn't dare to look at Wu Chenyang again. She moved her gaze to the flashing neon lights outside the window. Without saying anything else, she pressed the hang up button decisively with a click. Before the bitterness faded away, she felt a force pushing towards her. The next second, Kui Xiaoli was no longer in Hu Chenyan's arms. She was pushed away rudely by him. Not understanding what was wrong with him, Kui Xiaoli looked up at him reflexively. Hu Chenyang leaned back in a wide chair, his delicate face expressionless, his dark eyes focused on the rapidly passing scenery outside the window. He was clearly not looking at her, but she felt that he was very dangerous at the moment. If he wants her to come over, she has to come over obediently. If he wants her to leave, he pushes her away without any warning. What a psycho! Apart from the resentment rising in her heart, Kui Xiaoli wanted to stay away from him and sat by the car door without looking at him. For a moment, the atmosphere in the car was very stagnant. Soon, the car drove to the Xinya Villa area. When it arrived at the gate, it passed the inspection and drove in. Hu Chenyang didn't say anything until they got off the car. His aura was still cold. Kui Xiaoli had no choice but to follow him silently. Walking along the garden path into the main building of the villa and arriving at the living room, Kui Xiaoli looked at the cold and arrogant figure in front of him. He clenched his fists, then slowly stopped and stood still. Come up. As if he had eyes behind him, Hu Chenyang did not stop, but a voice without any warmth came over. The feeling of being pricked by nails on the palm of her hand made Kui Xiaoli raise her feet and follow him upstairs. It was still the same room as last time. This time Kui Xiaoli had time to look at it carefully. The main color was black, and the most eye-catching thing was the king-size bed. She still remembered that she had slept on it last time. Hu Chenyang took off his clothes without any hesitation. He looked very calm and composed, not showing any discomfort at all. Even though she had been with him, more than once or twice, Kui Xiaoli still blushed slightly when she saw his perfectly proportioned and well-toned body, and was about to close her eyes. Hu Chenyang said in an emotionless voice, "Go out and clean yourself." After saying that, Hu Chenyang had already taken off the last layer of restraint and entered the bathroom. No matter how much Kui Xiaoli blushed, all her romantic emotions were completely wiped out by such a cold voice. Go out and wash yourself. What a cold and indifferent word, the tone was so mechanical, as if she had to wash herself before coming to serve the king. In fact, what was the difference between her and those concubines in ancient times? Hu Chenyang was the king she had to serve. Kui Xiaoli secretly suppressed the sadness in his heart and left the bedroom. Zhang Mar seemed to know that Kui Xiaoli needed it. She was already outside and said with a serious face, "Miss Kui, please follow me. I will take you to your room." Kui Xiaoli followed Aunt Zhang and walked forward until they reached the end of the corridor. Aunt Zhang pushed open the door and said, "Miss Kui, this is your room. Your luggage has been moved in. If you need anything, you can come to me." "Thank you, Aunt Zhang." Before leaving, Aunt Zhang reminded Kui Xiaoli expressionlessly, "Ms. Kui, please don't go to the third floor, especially the last room on the third floor, otherwise you will bear the consequences." Kui Xiaoli was very tired today and was too lazy to ask why. She found her suspender pajamas from the suitcase and was about to go to the bathroom. After taking 2 steps, she stepped back and took out a long-sleeved shirt and jeans. After taking a long time to finish her shower, Kui Xiaoli looked through the bathroom mirror at the still clearly visible marks on her body, especially the purple teeth marks on her collarbone. No matter how hard she tried to endure during the day, she still felt sad when she thought about having to deliver it to him in a while. She wanted to hide in the bathroom and not go out, but Kui Xiaoli knew clearly that she could not hide forever, and Hu Chenyang was the obstacle that she could not escape. After putting on his clothes, Kui Xiaoli entered the room on the other side of the corridor. In the room dominated by black, Hu Chenyang had not come out yet, and there was the sound of running water in the bathroom. The next moment, the sound of water stopped and the door opened with a click. The tall and straight man was only wrapped in a bath towel. Although his face was cold and thin, his wet and sexy appearance, especially his sturdy body with water droplets on it, made him particularly charming. A trace of heat passed through his face, and Kui Xiaoli subconsciously lowered his head, tightened his collar, and did not dare to look at him. Hu Chenyang walked to the bedside and sat down, looking at the awkward Kui Xiaoli with cold eyes. "Do you want to come by yourself, or should I go and invite you in person?" Hearing the displeasure in their voice, Kui Xiaoli walked slowly towards the bed, stood in front of him, and dared not look at him. A sarcastic laugh escaped from his throat, and Hu Chenyang said coldly and sarcastically, "It's not the first time. Do you think I will let you go just by acting so awkward?" Yes, it wasn't the first time, what else could she not let go of? But she just couldn't do it, because she was forced. Kui Xiaoli tried hard to raise the corners of her mouth, but she found it so difficult. The clear voice continued to sound, full of mockery and contempt. No matter how much you wear, you have to take it off. Is this interesting? Very fun. Kui Xiaoli's face became even hotter and she wanted to look up and glare at him. But, I haven't seen his expression clearly yet. Suddenly, a huge force came towards her, and then she was pressed down on the bed by him, and his hot body covered her heavily. Chapter 18, He is quite courageous. The next day, Kui Xiaoli was awakened by a knock on the door. She forced herself to get up from the bed with her sore body. Thinking of what happened last night, she couldn't help but sneer. Last night, after Hu Chenyang had his fun, he drove her out of bed. He made her, who was exhausted from his torment, change the soiled sheets first, and then let her roll back to her room. Although she really didn't want to stay in the same room and bed with him, his bad behavior of abandoning her after doing it was really disgusting. Hu Chenyang, just wait, one day, I will make you return everything to me. Kui Xiaoli gritted his teeth, got out of bed, washed up, took some of the emergency medicine he bought last time, and went out to buy breakfast for the beast. Watching Hu Chenyang finish his breakfast elegantly and gracefully, Kui Xiaoli sighed inwardly, calling him a scoundrel. However, she didn't have the extra time to think about it. Hu Chenyang made a gesture and said in a cold voice, Auntie Zhang, take her downstairs to clean up. After saying that, the tall and graceful Hu Chenyang strode out of the restaurant without even looking at Kui Xiaoli. Kui Xiaoli then remembered that according to the contract she signed, in addition to sleeping with Hu Chenyang, she also had to wash his clothes and clean the house for him. She was even worse than the concubines in the emperor's harem. Looking at the large basin of clothes in the laundry room, and the familiar black sheets and quilt covers, they were clearly from Hu Chenyang's big bed. He had a great time last night, but she still had to clean up the mess. Kui Xiaoli angrily opened the washing machine beside her and was about to pour all the clothes into it when Aunt Zhang pressed the lid of the washing machine. Kui Xiaoli looked at her in astonishment. Auntie Zhang, what are you doing? Master has instructed that we must wash by hand. Hand wash. Hu Chenyang, damn it. Aunt Zhang, can you? Aunt Zhang said ruthlessly, no, not unless my husband agrees. No matter how reluctant Kui Xiaoli was, she had to drag her aching body and squat down to wash clothes and bed sheets. By the time she had washed and hung everything out, most of the morning had passed. Kui Xiaoli rubbed his sore and tired waist and went downstairs. Before he could catch his breath, Aunt Zhang appeared again. Ms. Kui, you should mop the floor. Looking at Zhang Ma's expressionless face, Kui Xiaoli just wanted to kill someone, but he patiently wiped the entire first floor. Standing at the stairs and looking at the large area of floor on the second floor, Kui Xiaoli really couldn't stand it anymore. She didn't want to do it anymore. She suddenly threw the rag in her hand aside. You're quite courageous. The voice was clear, like a piece of music played by a guitar, very pleasant to the ear. That voice was clearly Hu Chenyang. Hu Chenyang, why is he back? Didn't he go to work at the company? Kui Xiaoli's heart skipped a beat. She opened her beautiful narrow eyes and watched him nervously as he went up the stairs and walked towards her step by step. In the blink of an eye, the tall man was already in front of her, his dark eyes looking at her calmly, the light flowing in them made it impossible to see his emotions. Kui Xiaoli was afraid of him at first, but her body was too tired. Because of him, she had not had a good rest since the day before yesterday. She did so many things this morning and she was very tired. Kui Xiaoli looked at him with dissatisfaction. You can't blame me for this. You made me wash the clothes by hand, and now I don't have the energy to mop the floor. Then rest for 10 minutes before wiping again. She obviously meant not to wash clothes by hand in the future. Kui Xiaoli had no choice but to suppress her anger and suggested, Hu Chenyang, can I use the washing machine to wash clothes in the future? Cannot. Two decisive words. Why? His thin lips opened and closed slightly, and Hu Chenyang said, there is a human smell after washing your hands. Screw your human nature. What a lousy excuse. Kui Xiaoli asked angrily, didn't you use a washing machine to wash clothes before? Yes. There was no expression on his handsome, thin face, and his dark pupils were filled with a distant and indifferent cold light. Hu Chenyang did not deny it at all. Then he obviously did it on purpose. Kui Xiaoli became even angrier and said indignantly, "You were not human before, and I didn't see you do anything. But now you keep the washing machine unused and force me to wash it. Don't you think it's a waste?" Wu Chenyang uttered 3 words in a cold tone, "I don't think so." Choked by the righteous tone, Kui Xiaoli said weakly, "But after I wash the clothes, I don't have the energy to do anything else. Don't make excuses." After saying these 4 words lightly, Wu Chenyang no longer looked at Kui Xiaoli. He just walked past her and walked forward. Kui Xiaoli behind him was completely furious and shouted at him, "Wu Chenyang, don't go too far. Kui Xiaoli, you have no right to bargain, because you chose this path yourself, and you have to finish it even if you have to crawl on your knees." The breath was filled with chill, but Wu Chenyang didn't even turn his head back, nor did he stop. Did she choose the path herself? She had to crawl all the way even on her knees. Kui Xiaoli sneered, "Wu Chenyang, it is obviously you who are forcing her to do something, but what can she do?" I was so upset that I couldn't help but curse in a low voice, "Son of a bitch." Who would have thought that Wu Chenyang's steps would pause? Then he turned around and walked towards her with his long legs. Kui Xiaoli couldn't help but take a step back. She wasn't sure if he heard what she had just said. Just looking at his cold face, she couldn't see anything and wanted to step back. Wu Chenyang did not give her a chance. He grabbed her pointed chin with one hand, leaving her nowhere to hide. His dark eyes glared coldly at her face, and his tone was emotionless, "Swear again." The pain from his chin made Kui Xiaoli feel uncomfortable, but if he scolded him in front of him, he might be bullied badly. Kui Xiaoli looked at him warily, keeping his mouth shut, but in his heart he cursed him several times as a son of a bitch, a pervert, a psychopath. The 2 of them remained in a stalemate. Suddenly, Wu Chenyang took the lead and smiled, but his eyes were cold. "Don't want to clean, right? Then use your body to offset it." After saying that, his cool lips were already covering her skin. Of course Kui Xiaoli didn't want to and pushed him away hard. Fortunately, Wu Chenyang's cell phone rang and rescued her in time. Watching his tall and straight figure leave, Kui Xiaoli had no choice but to resign himself to picking up the rag and continuing to mop the floor. The second floor had just been mopped for a while when 2 bodyguards came up from below. Kui Xiaoli had no idea what they were going to do. Then she saw the 2 bodyguards carrying a washing machine out. Now she has no hope at all. "Wu Chenyang, you are so cruel." By the afternoon, Kui Xiaoli had finally cleaned the floor. During this period, except for eating lunch, Wu Chenyang did not go downstairs again. Kui Xiaoli breathed a sigh of relief, supported his exhausted body, and fell on the bed in his room. Just as I closed my eyes, the annoying knocks on the door continued, knock, knock, knock. Chapter 19, Even Pigs Are Not Spared. Kui Xiaoli was forced to get up and open the door. Standing at the door was Aunt Zhang with a simple and serious expression, staring at her messy hair and wrinkled clothes. Aunt Zhang said, "Miss Kui, please go change your clothes." No matter how tired Kui Xiaoli was, she had to tidy herself up. Kui Xiaoli was extremely sleepy and kept dozing off in the car. Before she knew it, she fell on a hard but warm object. The solid touch made her feel comfortable. She rubbed it hard, found the most comfortable position and fell asleep. Unfortunately, this feeling lasted less than a minute. The next moment, Kui Xiaoli was pushed away by someone. Due to inertia, her head hit the car window with a thud. The pain on her forehead woke her up. No matter how sleepy she was awake. Then she realized that it was Wu Chenyang who pushed her away. She looked at the man beside her angrily. Kui Xiaoli rubbed his forehead and said angrily, "Wu Chenyang, you pushed me." Wu Chenyang's expression was indifferent. His delicate and thin face was still handsome. His voice was cold and contemptuous. "You expect me to remain calm even though a pig is about to climb on you? What does 'a pig is on top of you' mean? Is he calling her a pig?" Kui Xiaoli was so angry that she smiled with the corners of her lips bent. Her little face was as beautiful as a flower, and she uttered sharp words, "Wu Chenyang, if I were a pig, you wouldn't be a good thing either. You sleep on the pig every day and never get tired of it. You are worse than a pig." Suddenly, Wu Chenyang's face became terrifyingly gloomy. He stretched out a big hand, directly controlled Kui Xiaoli's chin, and dragged her in front of him. A dark light floated in his black eyes, and the temperature in his voice suddenly dropped, with a chill flowing through the car. "Say it again if you have the guts." After being oppressed for the entire day, she didn't sleep well to begin with, and she was pushed awake by him just now, causing severe pain on her forehead. Kui Xiaoli had given up everything now. I say, you won't even let a pig go. Wu Chenyang, you're worse than a pig. The force on his hands suddenly tightened, and Wu Chenyang's face was very cold and intimidating. Before he could react, he heard. With a puff, a very suppressed laugh came from the front. Kui Xiaoli looked in the direction of the sound and found that a man had appeared in the passenger seat. His constantly shaking shoulders revealed that he was laughing. Kui Xiaoli then realized that there were not only her and Wu Chenyang in the car. What she had just said must have been heard by that man and Arnold. She couldn't help blushing. Har har har. Chenyang, this is the first time I've heard someone scold you like this. You're really creative. Har har. A male voice with a suppressed smile came from the front seat. This voice. Kui Xiaoli felt somewhat familiar. She looked at his face carefully and saw that it was Tang Kun who was beside Wu Chenyang. Shut up. With a low cold shout, Wu Chenyang's expression became even uglier, and then he pushed Kui Xiaoli away. He was thrown so hard that he almost hit the glass window again. Because Tang Kun and Arnold were there, Kui Xiaoli tightened his hands until his nails dug into his palms, and then he endured it. The atmosphere in the car suddenly became extremely cold and dull, and no one dared to speak. Only. In a glance, the familiar scenery outside, isn't it the way back to our home? How could it be? Kui Xiaoli shuddered and looked up at him. Wu Chenyang, where are you taking me? Wu Chenyang leaned back in the car seat, his eyes slightly closed, and did not answer her, seeming to have fallen asleep. Tang Yang, who was sitting in the front seat, turned around and said with a smile, let's go to your house. To my house. She didn't want to go back to that home at all. She had already given up hope on her father. Tang Chi continued to laugh and said, yes, doesn't Miss Kui's father's company need capital injection? Kui Xiaoli fell completely silent and looked at Wu Chenyang, who had his eyes closed and a stern expression. Yes, he was doing things according to the contract. Not long after, the car drove into the Kui family villa. As soon as Wu Chenyang and Kui Xiaoli got out of the car, Kui Shenguo with a flattering smile, Luo Zerong with a smile on her face, and Kui Yushan with a beautiful and gentle face all came to greet them. Mr. Hua, you are here. Our family has been waiting for a long time. Judging from Kui Shuangguo's tone, it seems that he knew Wu Chenyang was coming. Then, Kui Shenguo looked at Kui Xiaoli with extremely gentle eyes. Xiaoli, you are finally back. Daddy missed you so much. Oh, do you miss her? Kui Xiaoli lowered her head suddenly without saying anything. She didn't want to see those ugly faces. Suddenly, my waist felt tighter, and Wu Chenyang's hot big hand covered me. A trace of impatience flashed across his cold black eyes, but Wu Chenyang didn't say anything. He took Kui Xiaoli's arm and walked forward, as if he was the master here. Kui Shenguo was not unhappy about being snubbed. He followed behind with his family, praising Feiyan architecture and Wu Chenyang for being young and promising. Wu Chenyang did not answer any of these, and Tang Kun, who followed beside him, did not say anything either. Kui Shenguo seemed not to notice it. After entering the room, he flattered Wu Chenyang and asked him to sit down. Mr. Hua, you see, my Xiaoli didn't cause you any trouble. But you can rest assured, Xiaoli has always been an obedient child. No matter what you want, she will never disobey you. Listening to Kui Shuangguo's words and looking at her father who was so humble, Kui Xiaoli felt a wave of pain and coldness in her heart. Selling her daughter so openly, she had to accept her humble and embarrassing status, and her already fair face became even paler. I thought Wu Chenyang would still ignore Kui Shenguo, but unexpectedly, Wu Chenyang gently stroked Kui Xiaoli's soft long hair, glanced at Kui Xiaoli's face, and suddenly spoke, saying meaningfully, she is quite obedient. She is so obedient that she thinks of ways to entertain me every day. The emotions revealed in his clear voice were hard to fathom. Kui Xiaoli looked embarrassed, but could only sit beside him obediently and not say a word. Upon hearing this, Kui Shenguo did not think that selling his daughter was shameless at all. On the contrary, he felt very happy. Really? That's great. I told Xiaoli to be obedient. In that case, Mr. Hua, can we talk about Huashuan's matter? As if he didn't hear Kui Shuangguo's words, Wu Chenyang didn't speak again. His slender fingertips lifted Kui Xiaoli's long hair and gently wrapped it around her. His cold gaze was focused on Kui Xiaoli, as if Kui Xiaoli was the only one in his eyes. Silence. The silent and stagnant atmosphere was fluctuating in the air. Suddenly, Tang Kun smiled and broke the awkward atmosphere. Boss Kui, after all, I'm asking someone to do something for me. Is this how you treat guests? Thinking that Wu Qinyan's intimate embrace of Kui Sheli meant that Huaxuan's funds were saved, Kui Xianguo immediately understood after Tang Yu's suggestion. Look at me, I was so happy to see President Wu that I forgot everything. Look, it's almost time for dinner, and President Wu must be hungry, and the food has been prepared long ago. He led everyone into the restaurant. I don't know if it was a deliberate arrangement, but at the dinner table, Kui Sheli sat on the left of Wu Qianyang, and Kui Yushan sat on the right of Wu Qianyang. Kui Yushan smiled softly, like a gentle and beautiful flower. I wonder what Mr. Wu likes to eat. She picked up the serving chopsticks and said tenderly, can you tell me so that I can help Mr. Wu? Cannot. Wu Qianyang rejected Kui Yushan very disrespectfully. Chapter 20 I have something against you. Kui Yushan didn't show any sign of it, and continued to raise the corner of her mouth gently. Then don't be polite, Mr. Wu, just eat whatever you want. Wu Qianyang didn't even look at her. Instead, he raised his slender and beautiful fingers and frivolously pinched Kui Sheli's face, saying meaningfully, I want to eat fish. In an instant, a flash of jealousy and resentment passed through Kui Yushan's eyes. No matter how reluctant Kui Sheli was, she knew the consequences of not picking up food for him, so she had to pick up a piece of fish for him with her chopsticks and remove the bones from it. Feed me. Then, Wu Qinyan's voice resounded in the air. Kui Sheli wanted to ignore the words, feed me, and was about to take her hand back to eat her own food. Wu Qianyang suddenly leaned close to her ear and almost bit her ear to speak, his warm breath all lingering on her ear. Be obedient, or do you want your family to see you sitting in my arms, feeding me charmingly? No matter how much her father didn't care about her, he was still her father. When she thought of the embarrassment Wu Qianyang had put her through in front of everyone last night, if it had happened in front of her father, especially Kui Yushan and her daughter, Kui Sheli couldn't resist at all and had to obey him. No matter what he wanted to eat, she would pick it up for him. Looking at the intimate scene between Kui Sheli and Wu Qianyang, Kui Yushan still had a smile on his face, but he secretly hated Kui Sheli in his heart. Luo Zerong, who was standing by, secretly patted Kui Yushan's hand and comforted her. After the meal, Kui Xianguo asked someone to make tea and bring it over. After taking a sip, Wu Qianyang put it down. Then, in front of Kui Xianguo, Luo Zerong and others, he continued to stroke Kui Sheli's cheeks and hair. From time to time, he put his ear close to Kui Sheli's ear. No one knew what he was saying. In short, it was full of flirtatious intent, and he did not mention the capital injection at all. Kui Xianguo was getting a little impatient, rubbing his hands together and asking, Boss Wu, what do you think of Huoxian? As if he had just reacted, Wu Qianyang let go of Kui Sheli. There was no emotion in his cold, inky eyes. He looked at Kui Xianguo coldly, and said with contempt and ridicule, I do have some opinions. Kui Sheli had endured such humiliation until now, and she couldn't stand it any longer. Once Wu Qianyang let go of her hand, Kui Sheli stood up and said, You guys talk, I'm going to the bathroom. After saying that, Kui Sheli ran out without waiting for Wu Qinyan's permission. Xiao Li doesn't know the rules. Seeing that Wu Qinyan's expression did not change, Kui Xianguo smiled flatteringly. Then, I wonder what Mr. Wu thinks of Huoxian. It's not Huoxian. Wu Qianyang looked down at Kui Xianguo with an unpredictable tone. It's you, Kui Xianguo. I have some opinions about you. Being looked at by Wu Qinyan's cold and deep eyes, even though Wu Qianyang was obviously younger than him and even though he was very impolite to call him by his name, Kui Xianguo felt as if he was humbled in front of him. His eyes flickered, and Kui Xianguo was actually a little scared. He remembered what Xiao Li said last time, that Wu Qianyang once said that she owed Wu Qianyang, so could it be that Wu Qianyang knew about that? Logically speaking, they had done it perfectly, and so many years had passed, it was impossible for Wu Qianyang to know. But what did Wu Qianyang mean by what he said now? Wiping the sweat from his forehead, Kui Xianguo tried to remain calm on the surface and said with an extremely flattering smile, Boss Wu, I wonder what you think of me. I'll change it, okay? As long as you can invest in Huoxian, I'll change everything. With a cold and contemptuous arc on his lips, Wu Qianyang said mercilessly, I will not invest in Huoxian, and you can't change it. Upon hearing this, Kui Xianguo could no longer remain calm. He panicked and grabbed Wu Qinyan's arm, saying hastily, Boss Wu, you can't do this. My Sheli has already followed you, right? Hua Chenyang did not say anything, but the aura around him made people shudder. He glanced at the hand on his arm with a cold gaze, as if it was quenched by a bone-chilling poison. Kui Xianguo realized it and hastily withdrew his hand. Mr. Hua, my Xiaoli is still a student. She was a clean slate before she met you. How could you be so ruthless? Looking at Kui Xuanguo's ugly face of selling his daughter, Hua Chenyang really felt that Kui Xiaoli was not Kui Xuanguo's daughter. After all, Kui Xiaoli was so stubborn. If she was pushed into a corner, she would be like a little wildcat with sharp claws, and she would scratch him. But the flattering Kui Xianguo. The disgust and hatred in Hua Chenyang's heart grew deeper and deeper. He no longer wanted to waste time with Kui Xianguo. He stood up and strode out. Kui Xianguo was about to catch up. Tang Yu called Kui Xianguo and said, Boss Kui, although Fei Yan doesn't invest, we can introduce companies to invest in Huaxian. What do you think, Boss Kui? After Kui Xiaoli ran out, she walked aimlessly towards the path in the garden. Endless irony flashed through her mind. She felt that everything that happened tonight was a ridiculous joke. Isn't it true? Ever since she followed Hua Chenyang, every day for Kui Xiaoli has been a joke. Kui Xiaoli, stop. Suddenly, a female voice called her. Kui Xiaoli turned around and saw Kui Yushan coming out. What's up? Kui Xiaoli was extremely disgusted with Kui Yushan at this moment, and looked at her with a cold look. In just a few steps, Kui Yushan was already in front of Kui Xiaoli. The gentle smile on her face was gone. Kui Yushan said sarcastically, Kui Xiaoli, I didn't expect that you would have this day. You actually became Hua Chenyang's plaything. Kui Xiaoli curled the corners of her mouth, so what if you're just a plaything? You're not even his plaything. Kui Xiaoli, you. Hearing this, Kui Yushan was instantly annoyed. Thinking of the intimacy between Kui Xiaoli and Hua Chenyang at the dinner table tonight, his expression became even uglier. Then, he remembered something and smiled, Kui Xiaoli, who do you think you are? Do you think Hua Chenyang won't abandon you? When he gets tired of playing with you, you will be nothing by then. Kui Xiaoli was completely unmoved and said with a smile, then I'll wait for that day. Seeing this, Kui Yushan was not angry, and continued to laugh and mock her. Kui Xiaoli, what are you so proud of? Did you see that Dad's dinner party tonight was just to blatantly sell you to him? Dad, I have never loved you since you were a child. Who told you that you have no mother since you were a child? You, in this family, are dispensable. His nails dug into his palms, causing sharp pain. Kui Xiaoli suppressed his anger and said coldly, Kui Yushan, you'd better get out of here right now, or else, don't blame me for being merciless. Looking at Kui Xiaoli's increasingly pale face, Kui Yushan was very proud, as if he had not heard Kui Xiaoli's words, and then added fuel to the fire. Oh, I almost forgot, you are still useful. Your only use is to sell your body to men and inject capital into Dad's Huaxian. Snap. Kui Yushan's voice stopped abruptly. Kui Xiaoli couldn't control himself and slapped her. Chapter 21 Hua Chenyang, they bullied me. Kui Yushan stared at Kui Xiaoli in astonishment. How dare you hit me? Isn't it normal to hit you? It's not the first time. Why are you pretending to be surprised? Besides, I just reminded you that I will not show mercy. Kui Xiaoli said calmly, with a fox-like eye full of momentum. Besides, it's not easy for me to not mind my dirty hands. Moreover, you asked for this. At this time, Luo Zerong also came over. Seeing Kui Xiaoli beating her daughter, she became angry and said, Kui Xiaoli, you dare to hit my Yushan, are you looking for death? Luo Zerong raised her hand and slapped Kui Xiaoli in the face. Because it happened too suddenly, Kui Xiaoli was hit hard, and Luo Zerong was too cruel, so Kui Xiaoli took several steps back before he could stand firm. With anger running wildly in her heart, Kui Xiaoli returned the favor to Kui Yushan, who was closer to her. Immediately, red finger marks appeared on the other side of Kui Yushan's cheek. This time, Luo Zerong became even angrier and shouted, Hey, you little bitch, you actually dared to hit Yushan in front of me. It's been a long time since I taught you a lesson, Kui Xiaoli, you little bitch, are you tired of living? Kui Yushan's eyes were also filled with resentment. He covered his aching cheek and said viciously, Kui Xiaoli, I didn't hit you back last time you hit me. This time, I must get it back with interest. Yes, Yushan, Mom will help you get it back. Then, the mother and daughter suddenly exchanged glances and attacked together. Luo Zerong was responsible for holding Kui Xiaoli down to prevent her from moving, while Kui Yushan raised his hand and was about to attack Kui Xiaoli's face left and right. Kui Xiaoli also knew that she was outnumbered and could not fight the mother and daughter head on. A cold light flashed across her fox eyes. She glared at Kui Yushan and said, "Kui Yushan, you can't hit me." Kui Yushan slapped Kui Xiaoli without hesitation, then raised the corner of his mouth and smiled softly, "You can hit me, why can't I hit you?" Ignoring the burning pain on his cheek, Kui Xiaoli sneered and spat out 3 words, "Wu Chenyang." Sure enough, Kui Yushan's expression changed several times, and his hand stopped involuntarily. Luo Zerong said, "Yushan, don't listen to her nonsense, just keep beating me." Kui Yushan was still a little hesitant and couldn't raise his hand after all. Kui Xiaoli looked at Kui Yushan in front of her with a cold gaze, and said in a chilling tone, "Kui Yushan, don't forget, I am Wu Chenyan's woman now. He brought me into the Kui family today. When he comes out and sees my injured face, do you think Wu Chenyang will let you go?" Seeing that Kui Yushan was still hesitant, Kui Xiaoli continued to bully others. "Oh, I forgot to tell you that Wu Chenyang dotes on me now. You should have seen it when we were having dinner today. He was such a cold and indifferent person, but for me, he became as soft as steel." At this point, Kui Xiaoli almost felt sick to her stomach, but in order to fool Kui Yushan, she had no other choice. "You have to hug me no matter what you do. Have you seen Wu Chenyang like this before?" "No, today is definitely the first time. Also, why did Wu Chenyang come to the Kui family today?" "It's because of me. That's why he came to the Kui family, to invest in my father's Huixian. Otherwise, why do you think someone like Wu Chenyang, who always keeps others at a distance, would do such a condescending thing?" So, after a pause, Kui Xiaoli's voice turned cold, with a cold light in her narrow and beautiful eyes. "Kui Yushan, I can't stop you from hitting me, and I won't stop you. Because Wu Chenyang will come later, and neither you nor Luo Zerong will be able to escape." "Kui Xiaoli, you are so cruel." Kui Yushan's face turned pale, and she gritted her teeth and put her hand down, but in her heart she still hated Kui Xiaoli immensely. She pulled Luo Zerong with some resentment. "Mom, let's go." Luo Zerong did not move. Her face, which looked like Kui Yushan, was filled with uncontrollable anger. She scolded Kui Yushan, "Why are you leaving? Yushan, didn't you see that there are already slap marks on her face? Wu Chenyang will see it later. Anyway, 1 slap is a slap, 2 slaps is also a slap, so why not give her back her money all at once?" Kui Yushan hesitated, But what but? Besides, all this is just the one-sided words of this little bitch. Who knows if Wu Chenyang treats this little bitch as a human being? Also, how could Wu Chenyang, such a noble man, suddenly fall in love with this little bitch? I think this little bitch must be shameless and cling to him. We should beat her to death and see if she dares to be arrogant in front of us again in the future. Luo Zerong persuaded Kui Yushan in a few words. Besides, she was angry and wanted to teach Kui Xiaoli a lesson, so she smiled and said, "Okay." Snap. A slap hit Kui Xiaoli in the face. Looking at Kui Yushan's hand raised high again, Kui Xiaoli knew that she could not escape this time. She couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seemed that she was going to be beaten into a pig's head by them this time. Try to move her again. Suddenly, a clear and sharp male voice filled the air, carrying with it a sinister aura that was about to erupt. Under the streetlight, the man had a tall and straight figure, and a handsome and delicate face. As he finished speaking, Wu Chenyang had already walked over. Kui Yushan and Luo Zerong were both stunned. However, Luo Zerong reacted quickly and smiled at Wu Chenyang. "Mr. Wu, don't get me wrong. Xiaoli's hair is a little messy, so as her mother, of course I have to tidy it up for her." As she spoke, she raised her hand to touch the hair that fell beside Kui Xiaoli's ear. Kui Xiaoli didn't want to cooperate at all. He dodged her hand and threw himself into Wu Chenyang's arms. He hugged his strong waist and cried aggrievedly, "Wu Chenyang, they bullied me, they beat me together." While crying and shouting, she grabbed Wu Chenyang's hand and put it on her face. "Wu Chenyang, feel it, my face is swollen. You said I am yours, my face is your face, no one can hit me, hitting me is hitting your face, no one else can touch it, but look at my face, it's swollen. Wu Chenyang, they bullied me." What he meant was that Wu Chenyang and Kui Yushan, mother and daughter, had slapped you in the face. Could you tolerate this? Wu Chenyang lowered his eyes and glanced at the poorly acting girl in his arms. There were indeed clearly visible finger marks on that clean, white and beautiful face. The skin that had originally felt delicate to the touch was a little red and swollen. Her hair was also messy, and she looked so embarrassed. She recalled the 2 slaps Kui Yushan gave her last time. It seemed that Kui Yushan and her daughter often bullied her, and were particularly arrogant. She is still here, but these people dare to touch her. They are too arrogant. Chapter 22, Bullying Others by Relying on Wu Chenyan's Power. Somehow, Wu Chenyang suddenly felt a surge of anger in his heart, and he stared coldly at Luo Zerong and Kui Yushan, mother and daughter, and uttered cold words from his thin lips. Whatever they hit you with, pay them back tenfold. Hearing this, Kui Xiaoli smiled in Wu Chenyan's arms. Luo Zerong and Kui Yushan were instantly frightened. Luo Zerong tried to communicate with Wu Chenyang. Boss Wu, don't listen to that little bitch's nonsense. She was the one who beat Yushan first. As she spoke, she touched Kui Yushan's cheek, which was also covered with finger marks. Boss Wu, look, our Yushan's face is also swollen. It was that little bitch who beat Yushan first, so what? Wu Chenyang looked at Luo Zerong and Kui Yushan with cold eyes. His thin lips slightly opened, with a hint of sinister hostility. He said, if you touch my people, you will have to pay the price. As he spoke, Wu Chenyang patted Kui Xiaoli on the shoulder and uttered 2 words lightly, go. Looking at Kui Xiaoli walking towards him step by step, Kui Yushan's face turned pale. He hated Kui Xiaoli even more and wished he could take her life. Kui Xiaoli just raised his hand to slap Kui Yushan, and Luo Zerong was about to rush over to hit Kui Xiaoli. Unexpectedly, a huge force hit her in the face. Luo Zerong fell to the ground. Her face was swollen, and blood was oozing from her nose and mouth. She looked extremely miserable. Looking again, it was Kui Xiangua who came and punched Luo Zerong hard. Luo Zerong immediately rolled on the ground, covering her face, and yelled with snot and tears, Xiangua, you actually hit me. You actually hit me. I won't live anymore, I won't live anymore, I won't live anymore. Kui Yushan also hurried over to help Luo Zerong, staring at Kui Xiangua and shouting, Dad, how could you hit Mom? Kui Xiangua ignored them. Instead, he smiled and nodded to Wu Chenyang, Mr. Hua, my wife has a really bad temper. I'm sorry to make you laugh. Do you think this will make you feel better? Wu Chenyang didn't even glance at Kui Xiangua, he just said to Kui Xiaoli coldly, keep fighting. Kui Xiangua didn't say anything. Luo Zerong was about to yell again, so Kui Xiangua raised his fist at her. Luo Zerong remembered the mighty and domineering punch just now and immediately fell silent. Then the sound of par 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 echoed in the garden, and Luo Zerong and Kui Yushan really paid back tenfold, and only then did Wu Chenyang call a stop. Then, completely ignoring their family, Wu Chenyang stretched out his long arms, hooked them around Kui Xiaoli's slender waist, and turned away. Watching the intimate backs of the man and woman, Kui Yushan almost bit her teeth off. When she thought of the cold and compelling look Wu Chenyang had given her just now, she felt a chill rising from the soles of her feet. It was terrifying, as if he was going to chop off her hands. He was completely different from the cold and arrogant Wu Chenyang she had known before. It seemed that in his eyes, he really cared about that bitch Kui Xiaoli. No, he didn't care. How could that bitch deserve his care? With hatred in her eyes and holding Luo Zerong's arm tightly, Kui Yushan cried, Mom, did you see that? Kui Xiaoli is very proud now. Do you think Wu Chenyang really likes her? Luo Zerong touched Kui Yushan's deformed face with a distressed look. Yushan, there are many wealthy young talents in City A, why do you have to be obsessed with Wu Chenyang? I think Wu Chenyang's brother is better than Wu Chenyang. If you can get close to Wu Ilia, then Wu's will be yours. Mom. Kui Yushan refused to accept it. I only want Wu Chenyang. You don't know that Wu Chenyang is better than anyone else. Only a man like him is worthy of me. I must snatch Wu Chenyang back from Kui Xiaoli. Kui Xiangua shouted coldly, what are you trying to rob? Mr. Hua and Xiaoli are doing fine, why are you interfering? It would have been fine if he didn't say anything. As soon as he started talking, Luo Zerong remembered what had just happened and pounded the ground again, crying and screaming, Kui Xiangua, you actually hit me for that little bitch, and even watched that little bitch beat Yushan. Wu, my mother and I have such a hard life. Why did I follow you, Wu? Kui Xiangua's face changed, and he glared at him with his tiger eyes. Why are you crying? If Mr. Hua hadn't come here today, Hua Xian would be finished, and our family would be finished too. Then you will have the time to cry. Smelling the scent of the man next to her, Kui Xiaoli wanted to say thank you for what happened just now, but when she thought about the fact that she was surrounded by Kui Yushan and her daughter, and all the consequences caused by this man occupying her, any thoughts were hidden. Wu Qinyan's cold and indifferent voice floated in the air first. Are you a fool? Why are you coming up to me and asking for a fight? Is she a fool? Didn't he see that the mother and daughter were teaming up to beat her? How could she be a match for the two of them? At this moment, Kui Xiaoli's gratitude disappeared completely. She bent the corners of her mouth with difficulty, looked up at him and smiled. Yes, I was just looking for a fight. Wu Chenyang, you shouldn't have come over just now. You call me nosy. His tone suddenly turned cold, and Wu Chenyang's hand on Kui Xiaoli's waist tightened dangerously. Kui Xiaoli pursed her lips and said, you should be very happy to see me being beaten, right? After all, you said, I owe you. She wanted to continue laughing, but she couldn't. It was because of this ridiculous reason that she signed an agreement with him, but he refused to tell her what she owed him specifically. The dark eyes flashed fiercely, and the coldness around Wu Chenyang suddenly deepened. He loosened his hands that were clasped around Kui Xiaoli's waist and quickened his pace. Soon, they left the Kui family villa and got into the car. Tang Kun was about to follow behind. Go back by yourself, Wu Chenyang said to him, and then ordered Arnold, drive. Tang Kun looked at the black car that was speeding away and cursed inwardly, there is the opposite sex but no humanity. At the car door, Kui Xiaoli glanced at Wu Chenyang, who was standing beside him with a handsome face and calm expression, and asked doubtfully, why didn't you let Tang Kun get in the car? He is. Wu Chenyang's answer was to press Kui Xiaoli directly onto the seat. Kui Xiaoli was startled by the suddenness of the incident and asked, leaning against his solid chest, Wu Chenyang, what are you doing? Glancing at Kui Xiaoli's fair and pretty face, Wu Chenyang's dark eyes had been tainted with a deep dark color at some point. He opened his thin lips slightly, and nibbled her pointed and tender earlobe with his hot lips and teeth, and said vaguely, sleeping on the pig. Sleeping on a pig? Kui Xiaoli's face suddenly turned red. He actually still remembered the words she had said to him when she was so angry. Staring at the face in front of her, Kui Xiaoli pushed his chest, trying to stop him. Wu Chenyang, don't do this. Chapter 23 The Restricted Area Downstairs. Don't be like this. He raised the corner of his mouth, and the hot air sprayed all over her little face. The curve of Wu Chenyang's lips was full of sarcasm. I'm not even as good as a pig. If I don't do it for you, how can I be worthy of the praise you give me? Thinking back to today when Kui Xiaoli dozed off in the car and ended up nestling in his arms without even noticing, at that time he could only smell her sweet fragrance and feel her incredibly soft body. If Tang Yang hadn't been in the car, he would have wanted to have sex with her right then. He had never expected that this woman would be so attractive to him. He had no choice but to push her away. At this time, Tang Chi was not here, so how could he wait any longer? As he thought about it, Wu Chenyang's hot hands had already touched her delicate and beautiful cheeks, and slowly slid down along her beautiful facial lines. Kui Xiaoli hurriedly held his hand and admitted his mistake in a low voice. Wu Chenyang, I was wrong, I said the wrong thing, you are a human being, I am worse than a pig, please let me go. He broke free of her hand without hesitation. His usual clear and melodious voice was now tinged with a hint of hoarseness. He spoke two words without a doubt, not good. Kui Xiaoli immediately became angry, pushed him hard, and said angrily, Wu Chenyang, are you blind? Can't you see that my face is almost swollen like a pig's head? How could you have the heart to bite me like this? Wu Chenyang's dark and cold eyes were dark, his thin face was unusually handsome, with an irresistible momentum. I'm sorry, I don't even let the pig go. After saying this, the man leaned towards the woman. At night, Kui Xiaoli was awakened by thirst, his throat was so dry. There was no water in the bedroom, so she had to open the door and go downstairs. To her surprise, there was a dim light on in a corner downstairs. Looking closely, I saw that it was a small bar, and a tall and straight man was sitting there. There were several bottles of high-end looking wine on the bar, and the man was holding a glass of transparent wine in his bony hands, which he shook gracefully and took a sip from time to time. Under the light, the lines of his delicate profile seemed a little blurred, and he looked, inexplicably, a little more lonely and sad. Lonely and sad. Thinking of this description, Kui Xiaoli shook his head subconsciously. Don't be ridiculous. Wu Chenyang would be lonely. Wu Chenyang would be sad. How could such a cold-blooded person like him be sad? Without looking at him anymore, Kui Xiaoli went into the kitchen to pour some water. After drinking the water and coming out, Kui Xiaoli subconsciously glanced at the corner. I don't know when, the man who was originally sitting and drinking had already slumped down on the bar, seemingly fallen asleep. As if possessed by some unknown force, Kui Xiaoli walked towards that place. As he got closer, Kui Xiaoli could clearly see Hu Qinyan's appearance at the moment. His jet black hair was messily draped over his thick and long eyebrows, giving him a childish look, and his brows were slightly twisted, as if he had encountered something bad. His eyes were closed, and his eyelashes were as thick and long as two small brushes. His nose had clear lines, and under the warm yellow light, it looked particularly handsome. His extremely thin lips were light pink in color, and he looked particularly harmless when he pursed them lightly. Such an innocent and simple Hu Qinyang gave people an illusion, as if the man who tortured her during the day was not him. He was very different from the Hu Qinyang that Kui Xiaoli knew. Kui Xiaoli remembered a lot of things that she had deliberately ignored these days. For example, Hu Qinyang was an illegitimate child. He lost his mother at the age of 15 and was taken back to the Hu family. Just like her grandfather died when she was 10, and then she was taken home by Kui's father. For example, Hu Qinyang was oppressed by his father, brother and family members, but he did not give in, nor did he want the Hu family. He was self-reliant and founded Feiyan Construction, and had a position in the business circle. Just like her, she was abused by her stepmother, but she looked down on Kui Yushan and others from the bottom of her heart. She worked hard every day to live for her own future. Only. Now she no longer dared to compare herself with him, because the man in front of her was more cruel than anyone else. But why was his brow furrowed? What was he worried about? My hand reached out involuntarily and touched his brow. The next second, Kui Xiaoli felt a pain on his wrist, as he was grabbed by a large hand with distinct joints, and the force was quite strong. Looking at Hu Qinyang again, he had already opened his cold, dark eyes, which were filled with scarlet blood. At the moment, he was glaring at Kui Xiaoli coldly, with a terrifying hostility in his eyes. When she saw him like this, Kui Xiaoli's heart skipped a beat and she immediately regretted touching him. She tried to pull her hand away, but he held it too tightly. Kui Xiaoli frowned and said, "Hu Qinyang, it hurts, let go." Not only did Hu Qinyang not let go, but he grabbed Kui Xiaoli's fragile and slender neck. A ferocious scarlet color flashed in those dark long eyes, and the look he gave Kui Xiaoli was as if he wanted to eat her. Feeling the air rapidly ebbing away, Kui Xiaoli desperately slapped Hu Qinyang's hand that was pinching her, wanting him to let her go. She spoke with difficulty, "Ahem. Hu Qinyang, let me go, it hurts." Hu Qinyang seemed unable to hear Kui Xiaoli's voice. His eyes were covered with a layer of blood-red mist, which was extremely scary. The air was getting less and less, and Kui Xiaoli felt it was getting harder and harder to breathe. She felt that she was about to die, and she wanted to stop struggling and just give up, but she was unwilling to do so. She was unwilling to be strangled to death by Hu Qinyang. Why should she die while this pervert Hu Qinyang was still alive and well? She had not yet returned to him everything he had inflicted on her. So, Kui Xiaoli's pair of narrow and beautiful fox eyes stared straight at Hu Qinyang, and she struggled more and more fiercely. Her fingernails desperately grabbed the hand that was controlling her neck, leaving bloody marks. A sharp pain came from his hand, which made Hu Qinyang's vision clear again. "Go up and sleep." After a sinister and fierce shout, Hu Qinyang pushed Kui Xiaoli away without mercy, and the aura around him was extremely dark and terrifying. Kui Xiaoli didn't dare to delay at all. Regardless of the pain in his neck, he turned around and ran towards the stairs while coughing. Hu Qinyang's cold voice came from behind again, and his tone was unbending. He said, "You are not allowed to go downstairs at night from now on." Kui Xiaoli didn't dare to stay any longer. He ran upstairs, rubbing his aching neck. In Hu Qinyang's mind, those scenes kept appearing. Those were the dreams he had every night, reminding him all the time that some grudges could not be forgotten. Especially tonight, after meeting Kui Shenhua, he hated those people even more. So, those people. He won't let any of them go. Chapter 24, Drinking Shenbao to Survive. The next morning, Kui Xiaoli woke up, touched his face, which was mostly healed due to the medicine given by Zhang Mar, and then got up. Then, she thought of Hu Qinyang last night. Kui Xiaoli still felt that he was so strange. The way he looked at her was as if he wanted to eat her. It was like he had become a different person. There was no trace of the loneliness and sadness that she had seen. Without thinking any more, Kui Xiaoli began her busy day. After completing the task, she returned to her room to rest when the cell phone on the bedside table rang. When she saw the number on it, she couldn't help but curl up the corners of her lips, smiled sweetly, and pressed the answer button. "Hello, Grandma." An old and kind female voice came from the other end. "Xiaoli, why don't you come back to see Grandma recently? Have you forgotten about her?" "How dare I?" In Xiaoli's heart, Grandma is always the first. She had been bullied by Hu Chenyang these days, so she almost forgot something. She couldn't help but ask nervously, "By the way, Grandma, last time I heard you say that Jitan was going to be demolished. How is the situation now?" "The government said it wants to build a tourism and cultural industry, so Jitan will not be demolished." "Xiaoli, don't worry. As long as you are doing well, Grandma will be relieved." Thinking of everything that had happened recently, Kui Xiaoli couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat. "That's good. Grandma, you must be well in Jitan." Xiaoli has always been well. The other end seemed to have noticed something. "Xiaoli, have you encountered any difficulties? Why is your voice strange? Is it your father, or is it your aunt and sister who are not treating you well? Xiaoli, why don't you go back to Jitan? Grandma can support you." Hearing this, Kui Xiaoli hurriedly tried to pretend to be happy and said, "No, Grandma, I'm fine. My dad, he treats me very well. My aunt and sister love me very much. They even bought me a new dress. You don't have to worry at all. Well, I will go back to Jitan to see you in a few days. Grandma, Jingjing came to find me to go out and play. I'm going to hang out now. Bye." Afraid that his voice would reveal his emotions, Kui Xiaoli quickly hung up the phone. Then she looked up at the ceiling, raised the corners of her mouth and smiled. "Kui Xiaoli, don't be sad, you are the best, at least you still have your grandma." In the next few days, after observation and asking Zhang Mar, Kui Xiaoli had already figured out Hu Chenyan's living habits. First, Hu Chenyang has a very regular schedule. He has things to do at every moment, and he doesn't allow anyone to disturb him. He hates others touching his things, which can be seen from his cold look when she wears his clothes. Second, Hu Chenyang has severe misophobia and will not go to sleep without taking a shower. This can be seen from his habit of changing bed sheets every night. Third, the bar downstairs is a restricted area at night. Kui Xiaoli would rather be thirsty than go down there, because Hu Chenyang was particularly scary at that time, as if he was trapped in some nightmare, and his eyes were particularly terrifying. Fourth, Hu Chenyan's needs were so great that she felt sore all over every day, as if she had been trampled by thousands of animals. She couldn't muster up any energy the whole day, but she still had to clean the place during the day. However, if this continues, when will Hu Chenyang get tired of her? Kui Xiaoli feels that if Hu Chenyang hasn't gotten tired of her yet, she will be drained dry by him. After thinking about it, Kui Xiaoli decided to disgust Hu Chenyang, turn him off and make him lose interest in her. That way, he would stop pestering her every night. So during the day, after she finished cleaning, she would go out to bask in the sun in the garden. It was summer, so she naturally got all sweaty. When she saw the servants pruning the branches, she ran over to help. After she was done, she didn't take a shower. Later, when Aunt Zhang wanted to buy vegetables, Kui Xiaoli volunteered to follow Aunt Zhang to the vegetable market. In short, she exhausted herself to the point that even she felt sick. At around 7 o'clock in the evening, Hu Chenyang finally came back. Looking at the well-dressed man in a suit, Kui Xiaoli's eyes flashed a cunning light. As usual, during mealtime, Hu Chenyang asked her to serve the rice. Kui Xiaoli went over obediently. Before she had served her meal, she saw Hu Chenyang's handsome face turn dark. There was a chill in the clear voice. "What's that smell?" "There's no smell. Maybe there's something wrong with your nose." Kui Xiaoli was secretly proud in her heart, but her expression did not show at all. After serving the meal, she moved closer to Hu Chenyang. It was hard for Hu Chenyang to ignore the sour smell of sweat. What was even more terrifying was that there was also a fishy smell. No one knew where she had gone today. As Kui Xiaoli was about to come over, the smell became stronger. Hu Chenyang's thick long eyebrows slightly frowned, and immediately, he shouted in a low voice, "Don't come over." Kui Xiaoli pretended to be confused and continued to walk towards him enthusiastically. She looked at him with a smile and said in a sweet voice, "Hu Chenyang, don't you want to eat? If you don't eat, the food will get cold." Come, Wu Chenyang, I'll bring you some food. With a bang, the bowl in Kui Xiaoli's hand was pushed away by Wu Chenyang and broke into pieces on the ground. There was a rustling sound. It was the sound of Wu Chenyang pulling the chair. Then, Wu Chenyang's tall and straight figure went upstairs as if avoiding snakes and scorpions, and he didn't even eat. Looking at Wu Chenyang's quickly departing back, Kui Xiaoli was very satisfied and sat down to eat. Well, it would be a waste not to eat. She is so hungry after a busy day. As usual every night, Kui Xiaoli didn't take a shower and went straight into Wu Chenyang's room. So when Wu Chenyang came out of the bathroom and smelled that familiar pungent smell, he immediately lost all interest. He wanted to strangle this woman to death, but when he smelled that unpleasant smell, he was afraid of dirtying his hands. With his dark eyes stern, Wu Chenyang shouted in a disdainful and icy voice, "Get out!" Kui Xiaoli wanted exactly this effect, so he ran out quickly. Kui Xiaoli spent the night safely like this. She didn't take a shower and just lay on the bed. Although she smelled bad, she was very happy. Well, if she continued like this, Wu Chenyang would definitely get tired of her soon. When she woke up the next morning, she smelled the increasingly strong and powerful scent on her body. Not to mention Wu Chenyang, even she herself couldn't stand it. Well, she was very satisfied and decided to jog to buy breakfast for Wu Chenyang and work up a sweat at the same time. So, Wu Chenyang didn't even have breakfast in the morning and went to work with a gloomy face. His face was so dark the whole day that it looked like water was about to drip out. Tang Kun felt scared just watching from the side and did not dare to make fun of Wu Chenyang. His intuition told him that Wu Chenyang's behavior was related to Kui Xiaoli. When Wu Chenyang got home from get-off work in the evening, Kui Xiaoli thought that Wu Chenyang would tell her to get lost like he did last night. Unexpectedly, Wu Chenyang didn't even go into the restaurant. He just grabbed her wrist and dragged her upstairs. Chapter 25. Can you control yourself? Eh? Is this still the misophobic Wu Chenyang? Wu Chenyang, what are you doing? Let me go. Looking at Wu Chenyang's cold face, Kui Xiaoli subconsciously felt that something was wrong and wanted to break free from his hand, but he held it very tightly. Every time she struggled, his strength increased. In the end, her wrist hurt so much that she dared not move anymore. After going upstairs and entering the room, Kui Xiaoli was pushed into the bathroom by him. Looking at Wu Chenyang, who turned on the shower head expressionlessly and poured water on her, Kui Xiaoli suddenly panicked. She wanted to run out of the bathroom, but she was not as quick as Wu Chenyang, who caught her back in a flash. Then, he poured water on her mercilessly and poured toiletries such as shower gel on her. Kui Xiaoli thought that if there was 84% bleach in the bathroom, Wu Chenyang would probably pour it on her without hesitation. Her heart began to beat wildly and she started to get scared. She quickly held down his rough hands and pleaded with him weakly, "Wu Chenyang, can you let me wash myself?" There seemed to be a black wave surging in the dark eyes. Wu Chenyang looked at her coldly, and two cold-blooded words burst out from his thin lips, "It's too late." There was no mercy in his movements. He continued to pour shampoo on Kui Xiaoli's hair and rubbed her hair roughly and fiercely. Kui Xiaoli could clearly feel the pain in her scalp. "It hurts, it really hurts." Her eyes became sore. Kui Xiaoli grabbed his big hands that were wreaking havoc on her hair and began to admit her mistakes in a low voice. Wu Chenyang, I will never do this again next time. I will definitely take a shower obediently. Can you let me go? It hurts so much." Wu Chenyang lowered his eyes. The little face in front of him was a little red due to the water vapor, and the delicate lips like petals were also moist, which looked extremely attractive, especially the pair of beautiful eyes in front of him that were stained with tears and looked misty. Her heart trembled at the sight of that gaze, and she could not help but feel an indescribable strange feeling. Then, he deliberately suppressed it, and his rough movements did not stop. "Kui Xiaoli, this is what happens when you have evil thoughts. You asked for it." The man's voice was extremely cold and merciless. His rough hands, which were warm, did not miss any inch of her soft skin. They slid from her black and shiny hair to her full and smooth forehead, her delicate and beautiful eyebrows, her soft and rosy cheeks. He scrubbed her repeatedly, as if he would not stop until he had washed her thoroughly. Facing such a terrifying Wu Chenyang, Kui Xiaoli was really terrified and had to force herself not to cry. "Wu Chenyang, don't be like this. I will really take a shower next time. Really, I will." Wu Chenyang turned a deaf ear to all his requests. Later on, Kui Xiaoli no longer begged him because no matter what she did, she couldn't escape his hand and her skin was burning with pain. Finally, Wu Chenyang felt satisfied, so he turned off the shower in the bathroom and pulled the bath towel beside him to cover Kui Xiaoli. Clean yourself up before coming out. After saying this in a cold voice, Wu Chenyang walked out without caring about Kui Xiaoli who was shivering behind him. Wu Chenyang waited outside for a long time, but Kui Xiaoli didn't come out. A hint of coldness flashed in his dark eyes. Wu Chenyang walked to the door and said coldly, Kui Xiaoli, you'd better get out of here by yourself. Silence. The room was silent, and no one in the bathroom answered him. Wu Chenyang raised his hand to turn the doorknob, but the door didn't open because it was locked from the inside. His handsome face sank slightly, and Wu Chenyang's eyes became even colder. Kui Xiaoli, if you don't want to die, get out of here in 3 seconds. 3, 2. Before Wu Chenyang could even read one, Kui Xiaoli shouted from inside, Wu Chenyang, I want to come out, and you can't force me to do that. Wu Chenyang was about to kick the door when she said desperately, Wu Chenyang, do you think I don't want to take a shower? Can I stand the fact that I smell so bad? It's because of you. You do that every night. I really can't stand it. I have no strength at all the next day, and I still have to wash clothes and clean during the day. But I'm only 20 years old, and I'm still growing. If I continue like this, will I still be alive? So, Wu Chenyang, can you restrain yourself a little? After thinking for a while, she said earnestly, you are already 27 years old. What will you do in a few years? Do you have to drink Shenbao every day to get by? It sounds like she cares about him, but he is already 27 years old. She is complaining about his age. And, drinking Shenbao every day? This is a roundabout way of scolding him for kidney deficiency in the future. Wu Chenyang remained unmoved, his eyes still cold, and he said in a cold voice, open the door. Upon hearing his voice, Kui Xiaoli was even more reluctant to open the door. I won't open the door unless you promise me that you won't do anything to me today. Kui Xiaoli, you are the first woman who dares to bargain with me. There was a bang, and in an instant, the bathroom door was kicked open by Wu Chenyang. Looking at Wu Chenyang who came in with a cold air, Kui Xiaoli first widened his eyes, as if he couldn't believe that he could kick the door open with one foot. Then, Kui Xiaoli took several steps back cautiously and looked at Wu Chenyang nervously. Wu Chenyang, don't come over here. With a hint of sarcasm on his lips, Wu Chenyang walked towards her slowly, as if mocking her stubborn resistance. Kui Xiaoli, who was originally retreating, became even more frightened when he saw him like this, but unfortunately there was no way to retreat. At this time, Wu Chenyang had already walked in front of her. With just a stretch of his long arm, Kui Xiaoli was picked up by him. She was easily pulled out of the bathroom and pushed onto the bed. Then, the tall, thin and upright man stretched out his long legs and strode towards her. She felt the familiar male scent, smelled the pleasant but uncomfortable smell on him. Kui Xiaoli knew what he meant, but she didn't want to cooperate with him. Wu Chenyang, can't you just let me go? I really can't stand it anymore. Glancing at her with cold eyes, Wu Chenyang gently pinched her chin, and all his warm breath sprayed on her little face, but his tone was cold and he said, I'm tired of it, you go away. But when will you get tired of me? Kui Xiaoli was about to cry. If she continued doing this every night at this high frequency, how could he possibly get tired of her? Staring at the fair and beautiful face below, Wu Chenyang was actually sighing. It was not like he had never been in contact with women before, but why couldn't he get tired of her? Instead, he became more and more inseparable from her. As long as she came close, he would want to possess her fiercely and make her indulge in his control. Especially when he breathed in the familiar scent of shampoo and shower gel on her body. It was obviously a brand he often used, so why did it sound so sweet and attractive when used on her? Chapter 26 Wu Chenyang, you are inhuman. Thinking of this, Wu Chenyang's black eyes darkened a little, with a hint of heat, and his big hands gently stroked her smooth little face. He lowered his voice in her ear, his tone cold, and whispered, if you continue to be disobedient like this, I will never let you go in this life. If she doesn't obey, will he never let her go in this life? But if she obeys, how can she obey? Should she continue to lie on the bed and let him slaughter her? Kui Xiaoli felt it was ridiculous and embarrassing, with a hint of anger in his narrow eyes. Wu Chenyang, what do I owe you? Tell me. I'll pay you back. As long as you don't torment me like this anymore, I'm willing to do anything. Hearing this, Hu Qinyan's dark eyes suddenly narrowed, and he glared at Kui Xiaoli with a murderous look in his eyes. There were some emotions in his eyes that Kui Xiaoli could not understand. She only felt a kind of fear from the bottom of her heart surging in her limbs. The next moment, the skin and bones on his chin felt a pain, as Hu Qinyan's big hand tightened there. Then, his cruel voice resounded in the air, carrying a breath of despair, "You will never be able to pay it back." After what he had done to her in the bathroom that night, her skin was already very fragile. Now her face hurt when he touched it, and now Wu Chenyang actually wanted to do that to her. Would she still be able to survive? Thinking of this, Kui Xiaoli was also forced into a corner and couldn't help cursing, "Wu Chenyang, you are inhuman. Not a human. Shameless. Let me tell you, I didn't take a shower just to disgust you. You can even eat such a disgusting person like me. You are worse than an animal. I curse you." Wu Chenyang seemed to be unable to hear her scolding. He ignored Kui Xiaoli's struggle and resistance and continued to press down on her. When Zhang Mar woke him up the next day, Kui Xiaoli felt that his throat was hoarse. It hurt when he spoke, and it was very dry. He wanted to move his body, but even his fingers were difficult to move. Wu Chenyang is such a beast, she hates him. After struggling for a long time, Kui Xiaoli barely climbed up from the bed. However, the slightest movement caused severe pain in her waist and legs. Even walking became a difficulty. She hated Wu Chenyang even more. "I cursed inwardly, Wu Chenyang, I hope you suffer from kidney failure soon." I walked to the window unconsciously, opened the curtains, wanted to feel the morning air and refresh myself, and then I saw the scene in the open-air swimming pool downstairs. The man with a slender figure swam flexibly in the water at a very fast speed and looked extremely strong and powerful. With a splash, the muscular man emerged from the water, then went ashore, took the large towel handed to him by the servant, and wiped the water off his body with smooth movements. His every move was sexy and charming. As if he had caught something, Wu Chenyang suddenly raised his head, his pair of dark eyes fixed on Kui Xiaoli, staring at her for a second. Then he hooked his finger at her. "Does this mean, let her go?" Although confused, thinking of the pain he had suffered the whole night after disobeying him, Kui Xiaoli had to move forward with difficulty. "Looking at this wet man up close, I feel that Wu Chenyang is more charming and manly." Kui Xiaoli's face flushed. She didn't dare to look at him anymore and asked him, "What's wrong?" "Clean the swimming pool later." Wu Chenyang said this without any warmth and strode away. Looking at the nearly 100 square meter swimming pool, Kui Xiaoli wanted to kill someone. She had to clean up all the messes he destroyed every day, but what could she do? She did resist in the past 2 days and was punished by him last night. Now she even found it difficult to walk. Suppressing the indignation in her heart, Kui Xiaoli had to do her job obediently. By the time she had washed the clothes and cleaned the swimming pool, her waist could no longer be straightened, and she was about to go back to her room to rest. Zhang Mar, who had been missing all day, reappeared. She was expressionless as always and said, "Miss Kui, please go to the garden and trim the flowers." The servant at the side handed over a pair of large scissors for pruning branches. Kui Xiaoli took the big scissors blankly, a little confused. "Why? Didn't you just say it's for cleaning and washing clothes?" Aunt Zhang's face was calm. "Master said that since Miss Kui likes to prune flower branches, then she should keep pruning them." Kui Xiaoli remembered that the day before yesterday, in order to avoid Wu Chenyang, she tried hard to create sweat smell and stains, so she ran to prune the branches. As a result, now, she shot herself in the foot. I couldn't help but shout in my heart, "Wu Chenyang, why don't you just die?" Then, Kui Xiaoli suddenly remembered something. She grabbed Aunt Zhang's hand and asked nervously, "Aunt Zhang, did Wu Chenyang say that I will be the one buying all the food from now on?" Aunt Zhang nodded, "That's right." Because of Wu Chenyang, Kui Xiaoli felt that his life had become extremely miserable. But she can't give up. One day, she will leave Wu Chenyang. Kui Xiaoli clenched his hands and began a hard struggle. At the end of the day, it felt like I had fought a tough battle. Without waiting for Wu Chenyang to come back, Kui Xiaoli didn't even eat dinner and fell asleep. Fortunately, Wu Chenyang did not come to bother Kui Xiaoli in her sleep tonight. The next morning, Kui Xiaoli learned that Wu Chenyang had gone on a business trip yesterday and did not come back last night. This was great. She really hoped he would never come back. Kui Xiaoli was so happy that she decided to go to Town Ji to see her grandmother. She really missed her grandmother. In the car, Kui Xiaoli's cell phone vibrated. There was a message on Penguin. He clicked on it and saw that it was from Xue Jingjing, who hadn't contacted him for several days. The years are quiet and good, Xiaoli, there is a new annoying person in my family, it's so annoying. Dawn of the Dawn, hateful. Jingjing, there is actually someone who makes a gentle person like you feel hateful. That person must be particularly hateful, why not tell me about it? The years are quiet and good, actually, the situation is a bit complicated. This person is my Uncle S son. You know the situation of my Uncle S family. My uncle already had a son before he married my aunt. This person is Shinanshan. Recently, my uncle also passed away due to illness. Shinanshan was still in high school. My mom took him to my house because she felt sorry for him and he had no one to rely on. But my parents were busy, so I had to take care of him. You don't know, he doesn't know what's good for him. He skipped classes every day, and he smoked, drank, and fought with others. His teacher asked me for help, but I couldn't control him at all. Shinanshan had a hot temper and was particularly fierce. Dawn of the Dawn, then you should act more aggressive than him. Years are quiet and good, okay, I know I'm being a bit long-winded, just listen to me. By the way, how have you been recently, and Wu Chenyang? Dawn of the Dawn, what else can I do? I can't escape from his clutches. This topic was too boring. After they chatted for a few minutes, Xue Jingjing went offline. Chapter 27. We have a clue about what happened that night. The spacious and open office is decorated simply and clearly. The brown carpet is luxurious and tasteful, and the obsidian desk looks extremely high-end. There was a computer on the table, and a cool-looking man in a suit and tie was sitting on the president's chair, typing quickly on the computer keyboard. After knocking on the door and getting permission, Tang Kun came in excitedly to report the news. Chen Yang, we found out. Explain. Wu Chenyang uttered a word concisely and without stopping his hands. Through the videotapes and various analyses, we found out that the person who sent Kui Xiaoli to your room that night was related to the Pei family. What do you mean? What happened that night was this: Kui Xiaoli was originally going to enter the room opposite yours, but a strange man wearing a mask pushed her to the door of your room. After watching her enter your room, the strange man left. During this time, he kept avoiding the camera, so his face could not be photographed. From this, it can be seen that this man is very familiar with the environment of Rugi Hotel. He knows the location of every camera. This man may be someone inside the hotel, or he has obtained information about the distribution of the hotel's cameras. In short, whether it is the former or the latter, this man is related to Rugi Hotel, and Rugi Hotel is owned by Pei's company. Secondly, everyone in City A knows that you and Wu Ilia are not on good terms. You drank too much that night, and Wu Ilia also drank a lot. It's fine if you didn't know about it, but why did the hotel arrange your and Wu Ilia's rooms to be opposite each other? Isn't this deliberately provoking trouble? Next, we searched for the strange man through the road cameras and found that he was very cunning. Although he was good at hiding, the scene of him making a phone call outside was still captured by the camera. Then we searched along the road he walked along in the camera and found a SIM card that was broken by humans. After screening, I found that he called Pei's office phone at the time. As for who answered the phone, it is not clear, but this person is definitely from Pei's family. Then I checked again. The Pei family had a grudge against you, and the people related to Kui Xiaoli, and I found that there seemed to be only two people. That person was Pei Xiao and Pei Yi. As for the reason, you once attacked his brother Pei Yi in front of Pei Xiao at a banquet, and then what about Pei Yi? The woman Pei Yi likes you. Speaking of this, Tang Kun felt a little proud. Wu Chenyang's expression was still indifferent, so. According to the process of elimination, Pei Yi was abroad at the time and couldn't have answered the phone, so he was ruled out. As for Pei Xiao, although he was still a college student, he went to the Pei building that day, so the time and place were consistent. Wu Chenyang asked, then how do you explain that videotape? It was Pei Xiao who did it too. No. Wu Chenyang denied without hesitation. His slender and clear fingers tapped on the table, and his dark eyes flashed with a dark light. Pei Yi is more likely than Pei Xiao. Tang Qi was surprised. Why? Because all this is just your guess. Yun, I don't blame you for making such a low-level judgment. Wu Chenyang looked at Tang Kun, and there was a rare hint of warmth in his cold, dark eyes. Tang Qi suddenly realized, then smiled helplessly and rubbed his forehead. you really hit the nail on the head. Thinking back, he has been really busy lately. Tang Tang is in adolescence and is really too much of a hassle. He wishes he could grow an extra pair of eyes to keep an eye on this little girl. It's true that he cares too much and becomes distracted, so much so that his IQ has dropped. Keep checking and find the man wearing the mask. Tang Kun nodded and was about to leave when Wu Chenyan's clear voice sounded again. How is that matter going? Everything is under control. We have already acquired 9% of the shares. 9%, that's quite a bit. Yes, if we continue to acquire more, Wu's company will be easily within our grasp. Hold still for now. Wu Chenyang interrupted Tang Kun in a deep voice. A kun, Wu Yile is a fox, and Wu Liankai is also an old fox. With so many shares missing, they must have noticed something. Thinking of Wu Yile's cunning character, and then Wu Liankai's experience and cunning, it is indeed true. Tang Kun looked at the expressionless man in front of him. He knew what Wu Chenyang had paid in order to climb to where he was today solely by his own strength. What was rare was that Wu Chenyang did not get carried away by this achievement. On the contrary, he remained calm and composed at all times. To a certain extent, he is not happy with things or sad with himself. Tang Kun admires this point of his very much. Tang Kun knew that it was because of the hatred in his heart. Their hatred had long been embedded in Wu Chenyan's bones and spread through his limbs and bones, which created the Wu Chenyang of today. Everyone thought that the Wu Chenyang in front of the public media was the real Wu Chenyang. He was an illegitimate child and was not recognized as an ancestral family until he was 16 years old. However, he did not want the Wu family's property, and he did not compete with Wu Ilia for it. Instead, he founded the Feiyan Construction Company on his own and became a leader in the construction industry. Compared with those second-generation rich people who rely on their families for food, the noble and aloof Wu Chenyang is ambitious and hardworking, young and promising, handsome and rich. But the world does not know that this man is surprisingly cruel and ruthless. Under his indifferent appearance, he hides a heart full of scars. How could he not want the family property? Not only does he want the family property, he also wants revenge. However, as such a person, he really doesn't want much. Xiaoli, you have to be good and finish college. Your mother didn't finish college, and grandma feels very sorry. Xiaoli, don't fall in love when you are in college. Finish college well, then find a good job, and then find a decent person to marry. Kui Xiaoli sat in the car, holding her cell phone, thinking about what her grandmother said to her when she went to see her today. In the past, her grandmother was afraid that she would be sad, so she never mentioned her mother to her. But this time, her grandmother said a lot, and she always felt that her grandmother had something else to say, and her expression seemed to be hesitant. She thought her grandmother was so strange. As for dating, finding a job, getting married. As long as she was by Wu Chenyan's side, she would never dare to think about all this. Just as I was worrying, the phone in my hand vibrated. It was the little penguin calling. I clicked on it and it turned out to be Pei Xiao. The sound of the flute sends my love. Xiaoli, are you online? Dawn of the dawn, what's wrong, President? Is there something wrong? The sound of the flute sends my love. Can't I look for you if nothing happens? Dawn of the dawn, I dare not. The sound of the flute brings me love. By the way, Xiaoli, why did you leave so quickly at the completion ceremony of the school's architecture building last time? I wanted to compliment you in person on how beautiful you looked in Cheongsam. Thinking of the day when Wu Chenyang took advantage of her in public, Kui Xiaoli blushed and did not respond. The sound of the flute sends me love. Somewhat hesitant. Xiaoli, do you also like Senior Wu Chenyang? I know that many girls in our school like him and regard him as their male god. After all, he is a leader in the construction industry.